Patrick Christie's tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Hello there. Time fast approaching 6 o'clock. It is a Tuesday morning. It is the 19th of March. And this is Breakfast on GB News. Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Thank you for your company this morning. We're leading with a royal relief as photos and video emerge of the Princess of Wales out and about over the weekend.
The Prime Minister poised for a fresh battle with the House of Lords over his Rwanda bill after a victory in the Commons last night.
Local roads around the country are near breaking point as pothole numbers reach an 8-year high.
After 8 o'clock, what do you think of that? Anyway, could it be Banksy, the artist, his latest outing? Or is it artwork trash or treasure? Let us know your thoughts.
And in sport this morning, Nottingham Forest have 4 points deducted for breaking Premier League profit and sustainability rules. England reveal their new shirts for the Euros, whilst Bruno Fernandes thinks the players should be allowed to celebrate by taking their shirts off.
Correct.
If they want to.
I agree.
No, really?
Yes.
Craziness.
Another fairly mild day today. There is some rain around at the moment, but most of us will have a brightening up kind of day. Join me later for a full forecast.
What a carry-on the royal front this week. It's been a tumultuous few weeks for the royal family. And if Isabel shows you the front page of The Sun today, there it is. Great to see you, Kate, is the headline.
Yes, great to see you is the headline, and it's the first time that she's been photographed since her surgery in January. And, of course, it sent social media into a spin.
Well, there was a bit of relief over the weekend. This is at a farm shop in Windsor where she was spotted. They were going about their business. I still think there's something very contrived about all of this, but what do you think?
Well, if I open the newspaper up, you can see there was actually a video and they've taken lots of screen grabs of the video. Comments about her have been that it's grainy. And, you know, traditionally in the media, we don't accept pictures like this of the royal family because it commoditises the Princess of Wales. It goes down the route of the Diana saga when you incentivising paparazzi to go out with their long lenses and get these pictures. So is this another PR misstep? For me, this story is not about Kate. You know, I think the goodwill is known by the public that we wish her well and we're pleased to see her. I think this is about how badly the press office has handled this from Kensington Palace's point of view, because now they're commoditising the Princess of Wales by letting these pictures go out into the media. And let me tell you, the video that The Sun have released is so expensive that we've decided not to pay for it because we'd have to pay a huge fee every time we show you that video. So what do you think about all of this morning?
So this is about I forget what I was going to say there. Anyway, the Prince and the Princess of Wales. This is more about them than showing how well she is or not. So.
Well, I should also point out the Telegraph is leading with a royal story because this is the second picture that has now been deemed manipulated, and you'll see far away from there, this is actually the late Queen surrounded by all of her grandchildren. And Getty, one of the respected international news agencies, often taking royal pictures, have come out and said this picture was also altered. So again,
but why did they print it then?
Has this relationship
I love how
between
you
the press
you see
and
these
the
respected.
palace
There's nobody's
now
respected.
been damaged?
It's all business
Okay,
for
well,
all of them.
trusted by
Well,
the
I wouldn't
family.
trust them. Why did they print it?
Let me finish. Trusted by the family to print their pictures. Well, now that relationship has broken down. Why?
Well, why
Because
has
of
it
the
broken down?
missteps.
Because they've blown the whistle.
Well, yeah, because that trust has been blown when they wanted a picture of Kate and something strange was put out there. So there's so much to this story.
But this one with the Queen, how's this been doctored?
Apparently there's 3 or 4 problems with it, similar to the one that we saw on Mother's Day where sleeves and things don't align. I think Mia Tyndall, who's seated at the front there was an issue with that. It's a bit of spot the difference. Well, yes, no, I don't care, but I guess the rules have changed because here we are in an election year, there's this creep-in of AI and altering of pictures, and we have to be extra careful now, hyper-vigilant, but the first people to fall victim of this seems to be the royal family. So do you care? What do you think about all of this? Is it a fuss about nothing? Or are you just pleased to see Kate out and about this morning and relieved to see that she's well? Or do you think that the royals have thrown her under the bus and are playing the game and, you know, responding to the mob crowd by releasing pictures in this way? I mean, it's not an official picture.
OK, let us know. The time is almost 6:05. Now to domestic issues, and the Prime Minister has secured a victory in the House of Commons overnight, using his majority to vote down the House of Lords' 10 amendments to the Rwanda bill.
Well, this latest development means the PM will face a showdown with the Lords tomorrow as he seeks the Rwanda bill to be finalised before the Easter break.
In the studio, opinion and features editor at City AM, Alice Denby. Alice, good morning to you.
Morning.
Where does this leave us, Alice?
Well, this is all a bit of political theatre, really. I mean, this was the first stage of what's known as ping-pong, where we expected the Lords to put forward amendments to the bill. Conservatives don't have a majority in the Lords, came back to Parliament and Rishi Sunak secured a victory. The danger is coming later in the week, where the Lords may be able to delay this bill until after Easter. That's going to be after the local elections, and that's where it's going to be significant. This is just pushing back and back and back whether or not we ever see these planes take off to Rwanda before the next election, which is clearly what Rishi Sunak is staking his kind of last hope on for turning those polls around.
And how tight were these votes on what some Conservative MPs have described as wrecking amendments? I mean, was this a really close call? You know, it's been described as a victory for the Prime Minister. Was it a bit of a squeak through?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the Conservatives are mostly kind of fairly united behind this bill. I think there will be closer votes later on in the passage of this bill. But, I mean, realistically, the point is, there are only 150 people identified to take off on these flights out of 6,000 people eligible to be deported. I think the real question is whether or not the public believe that these flights will ever take off, and even if they do, if it will change the Conservatives' fortunes.
Well, there we go. Let us know what you think. Could this have been the poll bounce that they were after if they could have got royal assent for this bill on Thursday, I think was what they were hoping for. And now, as you say, it could be after the elections. What does that mean for the Conservatives? It's almost more about the Conservatives' fortunes than about dealing with the issue, isn't it? Let us know your thoughts on that and the rest of the day's news this morning. Thanks, Alice, very much.
Before we move on to politics of the day, as you may have heard last night, Nigel Farage is in Florida, where he's interviewed former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, no holds barred. Here's a sneak peek.
Join me tonight at 7 o'clock on GB News. The full interview with Donald J. Trump, and he makes it absolutely clear. He's running, he believes that he is going to win. Prince Harry may not be able to stay in America if Trump gets elected.
If they know something about the drugs and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action.
He's accused of calling for bloodshed if he loses, but actually the context of that is all completely and utterly wrong.
It's going to be a terrible bloodbath for the auto industry. The United Auto Workers it's going to be put out of business.
And importantly, for global security, we get tonight the definitive answer on where Trump stands on NATO. This has global significance.
Why should we guard these countries that have a lot of money, but now they're paying because of those comments that you saw 2-3 weeks ago?
This is an interview you will not want to miss. Tonight, exclusively on GB News at 7 o'clock. Join me.
Have Alice Denby in the studio with us, so we might as well get some reaction to that. It'd be fascinating to see the interview in full a little bit later on here on GB News. But from those snippets, what's piqued your interest there?
Well, I do think that the most significant thing about the upcoming American election, if it is going to be a Trump victory, is what this means in Europe for Ukraine. Is Trump going to continue the support for that war? Because, frankly, we know here in this continent that Putin's ambitions do not stop within the borders of Ukraine. He will not... if that war is not contained within that country, it will spill over and it will continue to affect us all. And Trump has not been, unequivocal about his support for President Zelensky, and I think that's really the most significant thing for us.
And his support for NATO, frankly, which is at the moment, protecting us and keeping us safe from Putin.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean for us? And I'm sure that will get crossed. I wonder if there'll be much discussion from Trump about the Middle East as well, because his position on that... I mean, he's not really... You don't think of Trump and sort of foreign policy as his big thing, but actually, because the world is in such a perilous state at the moment, you can't help but wonder what his views are on those issues.
I think it's very difficult to predict. I mean, I suppose the only thing you can judge him by was his record when he was in office, which was actually not to be such an unreliable partner, I suppose, on foreign policy. But yes, I mean, I think it's very clear that whatever he does, he will be putting America first. He does not see America as the kind of world's policeman. He does not, frankly, care about our security here in Europe or in the Middle East. And he will, everything he does will be based on what's best for America, both security-wise and economically.
OK, Alice, thanks very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
A look at some of the other stories you're waking up to on this Tuesday morning after the Home Office poured millions into converting a former RAF airbase into suitable housing for migrants. It's now confirmed that RAF Scampton will be capped at 800 migrants instead of the original 2,000. The Home Office Minister confirmed the change and stated that the government's priority is reducing hotel costs and delivering asylum accommodation sites in a safe and orderly manner.
Disgraced former head of the police watchdog Michael Lockwood has pleaded not guilty to 9 alleged sexual offences, including the rape of an underage girl in the 1980s. Mr Lockwood is currently on bail. His trial's expected to begin this July at the Old Bailey.
Tata Steel will begin shutting down operations in Port Talbot from Wednesday. Due to stability concerns, the steel group said it had been forced to make the closures earlier than previously planned because equipment can no longer run safely. We're now going to talk about new research from Historic England, and it's found an increase in the number of thefts from heritage sites right across the whole country.
Criminals, perhaps driven by the cost of living crisis, have been targeting valuable materials such as York stone and lead from historical sites and then selling them on for cash.
Well, our northwest of England reporter Sophie Reaper visited a church in Cheshire that has been hit by a spate of such thefts.
Established during the Saxon era, St Mary's Church in Congleton, Cheshire, has been at the heart of its community for hundreds of years. But despite its deep historic and religious roots, it's become just one of many sites to be targeted by criminals. 2 years ago, 3 men were arrested and found guilty of stealing over £100,000 worth of York stone from 8 different sites, including here at St Mary's.
This church was directly affected when, in 2022, we had the stone path that leads up to it, the York stone, stolen. And when we talk about this kind of crime, and some people might wonder why we, invest so much time and money in heritage crime, it's because it's a crime against every single one of us when it happens.
Once the culprits were caught, the stone was then recovered and replaced, restoring the damaged path. Now, Cheshire's rural crime team want people to know they're cracking down hard on this kind of offence.
So really important that people understand that we will go out of our way to go after people that are responsible for this sort of crime. We're looking at soil analysis, we're looking at the botany of any kind of plant or material that's on it as well, and we're linking that back to people's cars, their houses, and various other bits as well, which is getting us really solid convictions.
But this isn't just a localised issue. Up and down the country, historic heritage sites are seeing more and more incidents of valuable materials being stolen and pawned off to the highest bidder. But what is it about these sites that has suddenly made them such an interesting target for potential thieves?
In many cases, they just see it as a commodity. They don't see the historical linkage at all. So if they're turning up to take the lead from a church, they're not going, oh, crikey, that's an old church, I'll leave it alone. They just see that with pound note signs on it.
New research suggests that the cost of living may well be affecting the number of incidents of this nature as people choose to break the law in order to make extra money. But to historic England, the value of our heritage is priceless.
Can you imagine how many footsteps have been taken on those paths over the years? Weddings, funerals, christenings, people turning up for worship. How do you put a value on that?
As work now continues across the country to protect our heritage sites, the message from their guardians is clear. Thieves, beware. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
If you've got a view on that, somewhere in your area being affected by that, please do let us know. Something that I go on about, and this is where I think Sunak just doesn't get it. He talks about interest rates and whatever, and does not talk about the aesthetics of our neighbourhoods and our roads and things around us. And we are going to talk about pothole repairs. And this is actually, I would say, got to a joke, but it's not a joke. It is absolutely deplorable in every part of this country, every part of the UK. Potholes are at their absolute worst, and Sunak and his government and local authorities don't seem to be doing anything about it.
So in England and Wales, they've reached an 8-year high, according to a new report, which means highways are heading towards breaking point.
If they're not already there. Let's speak to Mr. Pothole himself, Mark Morrell, who is the chief campaigner on all of this. And Mark, you know, when interviews with you, you and I know each other, and we've known each other for many, many years, but there's always a little bit of a joke goes with, oh, Mr. Pothole, oh, this is a bit funny and whatever. And it's not funny. It's not funny at all. And what's more is, I don't see any evidence that somebody's even trying to make things better.
I agree, Eamonn, and we are at breaking. Well, we've gone past breaking point. You can see by the state of the roads, and you're quite right about government. The announcement of the £8.3 billion, enough to resurface 5,000 miles of road from the court cancellation of the northern leg of HS2, put into perspective, is only enough over an 11-year period to resurface 2.5% of England and Wales roads, when over 20% need major investment resurfacing now. And if we don't do anything in the next 15 years, 53% of our road network will be structurally unsound, and therefore it could potentially lethal for cyclists and those on two wheels, and cause, you know, untold billions of damage to road users. So yes, it's a joke. There's no will in authorities to seem to want to do anything about it. We're on about a managed decline. I don't accept that. I think it's a case where you haven't focused on the asset that our road network is.
It is a perfect storm, isn't it? I mean, we had, the wettest February since records began in the 1800s, and we know what wet weather does to our roads. We've had an unseasonably mild March so far, but all it takes is a frost here and there, and these potholes get even worse. You know, we've got this sort of strange weather now, which is a little bit all over the place, these relentless storms, and as you say, not enough funding.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but, you know, I get fed up with the weather getting blamed. You know, other countries have more excessive weather than us, you know, in Scandinavia, for example. It's a case where our roads haven't maintained, because a well-maintained road doesn't get affected nowhere near as much by the weather itself, unless the government invest in a multi-billion-pound resurfacing programme year on year, not just for 5 years, not just for 10 years, 25 years, like places like Japan, and look at the asset it is, and then reinvest some of the over £50 billion that they take in from road users from all taxation into the network, then we're in a situation where, I mean, God forbid what it's going to be like in 5 or 10 years' time. I mean, I've joked before about getting a tank. I mean, I may be forced to do so.
The system, Mark, I think needs a big look at as well. People think they pay their road tax and their road tax goes towards maintaining roads. And of course, these things don't. They're given a title which has nothing to do with where the money goes. The money goes to the NHS or the Defence Forces or whatever it happens to be. So road tax is not for roads. And that's a bit of a con, I would say. So who is responsible for the roads?
I mean, local roads are responsibility of the normally local council or highways authority. National roads, motorways and major trunk roads are responsible of national highways. And I've never seen them so bad. I mean, potholes on motorways, never heard of before. In terms of funding, you're quite right. Perhaps we need to rethink the whole thing and do like other countries where a road tax is a road tax to be spent on our roads. Because we're stuck in this historical thing, doing the same thing the same way and not getting the right result, I think is madness, and we need to completely overhaul. So whatever government comes in at the next election, if they don't make this as a priority, then I think they will fail the UK public, and they will be sorely thought of by the taxpayer.
The science and technology obviously is not up to scratch as well. You and I have talked before how that needs to be looked at. But at the end of the day, this is not a concern for the Chancellor. This is not a concern for the Prime Minister. I don't know who this is a concern for.
I was just reading it that local councils have increased their budget to spend on highway maintenance by 2.3% in the financial year 2023 to 2024. But because of inflation, that's meant a real terms cut. And local authorities expect to fix 2 million potholes in this financial year. That's up 43% on the previous 12 months.
But it's up 43% on nothing.
Because there's more potholes.
No, it's just nothing. They haven't been doing it, and therefore you can't say it's up by 23% or whatever. I mean, it's just the usual lies peddled by politicians. You've got a problem here, you know what to do about it if you are serious, and we're not serious about it. I always remember years ago travelling to the USA and thinking, my God, this is a third world country, because the roads were so bad. And we continually go down this American format of we don't supply services, like whether that's the health service or road service or police service or whatever. And surely it's not the way to go, Mark.
No, long-term investment and asset planning. Interesting you say, I was involved in a Transport Select Committee inquiry that reported back in 2019, a report called Fill in the Gap. That was some excellent work by cross-party members, and all the answers are in there, really, and it got lip service from Grant Shapps, and it's sitting on a shelf somewhere in Whitehall. I have no faith in politicians, government, to actually do anything at all now. I mean, it's 11 years this year I've been campaigning. Yes, I've had some tremendous successes. You know, I've had millions of pounds of resurfacing work. I've issued legal notices, on councils to get works carried out, thousands of potholes repaired. And I try to help people I can. I was particularly touched by the story of the 101-year-old lady in Somerset, so I've spoken to them about if I can help them in some way. So I want to try and keep on doing my bit, but the appetite of government just isn't there. And Sunak needs to come out with me for a ride, and I'll show him the real problems in our roads.
He doesn't want to see them, because then he'll have to spend money. He'll have to make some sort of promise about all of this. Who are you most disappointed in all the years? I mean, the fact that we've got to an 8-year high on this. And I think that politicians at whatever level, local authority or national level, they tell lies. They absolutely dodge the question. Instead of saying, look, Mark, we just don't have the money for this, and that's the way it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. If someone at least was honest with you, you could begin to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's smoke and mirrors, and the games, they spin so much it's faster than a Spitfire's propeller. And you're quite right, but I don't accept there's no money. They find money for things that they want to spend on that, you know, me and you disagree on HS2. I mean, £66 billion, the real road check that won't go in central London, never, to up to Birmingham, when our roads networks are failing. To me, it's like putting an extension on our Scott subsidence. But there's loads of examples where government can find money where it wants to, but it's not a priority for them. You know, on the other side, every time you have a repair on your vehicle, because they get 20% VAT, don't they?
Yeah, they do, yeah. There's a game in everything. And the whole idea, you mentioned HS2 there, we take the pressure, we don't put a lot of the cargoes on the rails, therefore that goes on the roads. Trucks are too heavy, too big. We talk about weather. It's nothing to do with weather. It's got to do with, you know, the amount of traffic on the roads. There are too many cars and there are too many heavy goods vehicles as well. We could go on and on, unfortunately, Mark, but we're out of time. One last word to say that how we're going to turn this around, or are we not? What would you say to people?
I think people, when it comes to the election, you've got a perfect opportunity to make your prospective MP aware that it's a major issue and that whoever party needs to address it now. It's a perfect opportunity, and I will keep pushing up until the election to really make that message heard.
Mark Morrell, good luck to you. Good luck in all you're trying to do. Thank you very much indeed.
Mr. Pothole, to you. We're going to take a look at the weather now. Alex Deakin has your daily forecast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's your chance to win our Great British Spring giveaway.
Yes, we have tech treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash. It's an amazing prize and it could be yours. So if you haven't entered already, here's your chance.
There's still time to win our giveaway packed with seasonal essentials. First, there's an incredible £12,345 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash to make your bank account bloom. Plus a spring shopping spree with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. And finally, a garden gadget package, including a handheld games console, a portable smart speaker and a pizza oven. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
And our sports like a big giveaway today as well. What have we got? Takeaway with Forest.
I think so. Well, they've lost 4 points. We'll see how that goes because maybe they'll appeal. We'll find out more at the end of the season. But Eamonn, you know, you were talking yesterday about that first shot you played off the tee
shot
that hit that poor lady.
Yeah.
Listen, there's been a spate of them, and there's one that I'm going to show you, which is just. It's a new. What they do is, if you're a new captain of a golf club, the first thing you do is hit a ceremonial shot. You walk to the tee, everybody stands around, and there's been some nasty ones.
Ooh.
And there's one we'll show you a little bit later.
OK, we'll be getting right nasty after this.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We have Paul Coyte in the studio with all the latest sport. Good morning to you, Paul.
Hello.
Hello.
Forest, Nottingham Forest. So it's profit and sustainability rules. We're getting involved in that again. Points being docked. It already happened to Everton, who were docked 10 points, and then that was changed, and then they moved that back to 4, and it's 4 points then for Nottingham Forest, who have been docked that.
And this was for
breaking the rules
last year.
Yeah, 22-23. So the thing is, Everton are still waiting on their latest hearing, so they could be docked more points. So the way things are at the moment is Nottingham Forest now replace Luton in the relegation zone. Yeah. It's subject to appeal. They have a week to appeal this. They're very unhappy about being docked the points. But when it starts getting really uncomfortable and bad for everybody is that towards the end of the season, if the appeal goes through, we won't get probably a result of the appeal until after the season's over. So they could be effectively be sitting in the relegation zone, and then you could have another club who is above them who would think, you know, and they're thinking, we're safe, we've escaped it. And then after that, then who knows that maybe points could be given back. They could then get away with relegation, and then another team could actually find themselves relegated after the season's end.
Is this all about lawyers, or do you feel there's a way they can implement penalties more quickly in this situation?
Well, the thing is, they don't even announce. It comes through the Premier League. They don't even announce when the hearings are. You only hear what's happened after the hearings happened. So we're expecting now that Everton is going to be either this week or early next week. But who knows? All of a sudden it'll be announced. So it's just really uncomfortable for fans. It's just a problem that involves money. It's overspend over 3 years. But the interesting thing with Nottingham Forest is that they've only had a year in the Premier League. Yeah. So when they do it over 3 years, you can't do it over 3 years. So then it's all worked back, go, well, OK, well, if we divide it by 3, it's just so complicated. Yeah. And it's just extremely disappointing for Nottingham Forest. And there's even situations, I don't want to start blinding you with science over this, but with Brennan and Johnson, who signed for Spurs, they could have actually sold him, which would have fitted in that financial year, that 22-23, made him enough money from him to then have avoided these sanctions, but they held on a little bit later, which meant they earn at least about £20 million more by singling him later, but then they end up losing points from
I'm looking here, you can write Sheffield United out of this because they're going down anyway.
Absolutely.
But you're looking at Burnley, Forest, Luton, Everton, Brentford, all affected by what happens here.
Yeah, I think probably the bottom two, like we just said, Sheffield United are going to be gone. Burnley, when you look at stats, they're saying it's 97% certain that those two are going to be gone. Yeah. But it's then above then. So like you say, Forest, Luton, everybody's looking at this. How is this going to affect us? But you don't want to play your last game thinking we've survived and then find out later, actually, sorry, you're actually going down.
Bruno Fernandes, the Manchester United captain, he's come out and he's saying, and I think he's right with this, he's saying that players should be allowed to take their shirts off to celebrate if they want. What harm? This is after the lad Ahmed on Sunday against Liverpool was sent off. And what harm does it do?
See, there's the rule, isn't there? That you get a yellow card if you take your shirt off celebrating. Yeah. How far does this go back? Was there a point when all of a sudden everybody started...
But they used to have messages written on their vests.
That's right.
Underneath. So.
But still, for some reason, the shirt has to come off some point. Yeah, OK, it's maybe a silly rule to be given a yellow card for taking your shirt off, but everybody knows what the rule is. Why do you feel in the moment... I'm so excited, I've got to whip my shirt off.
Yeah, they just want to show what they've got under their shirt, don't they? It's
that's
like,
worth a yellow card.
Six-pack, girls.
And you know what? If you get a yellow card... He was already on a yellow card, and then you know the rules. You mustn't take your shirt off. If you actually do that, there you go.
OK,
rules.
Let's look at these tee shots that you were talking about. So if you're, for instance, a newly installed captain of a golf club, you can tee off to the applause of everyone.
Everybody stands around. It's called the captain's drive-in. Now, I don't know who this man is. I don't know the club, but it looks like a pretty big club. Have a look at this. Now, he's walked up. He's a little bit nervous beforehand. He's making a few little jokes, but he knows everybody's watching. This has to be perfect. The new captain on the first tee. He's lining up. He's looking comfortable. Here he goes. Everybody's got their cameras at the ready so they can be there at this special moment. And when you're ready. Whoa! That's gone straight into the crowd. But have a look at this. Is the view from behind. So there's another view of this because everybody filmed it. Now watch after he does it. See, look, he keeps his stance. You see him keeping his stance.
He's frozen in action.
But the thing is, it's hit. I think what's happened is hit someone in the crowd, but he's thinking people are taking photographs of me.
Yes.
I'm going to hold it so it looks great as someone's laying on the floor.
In shock. What have I done?
I
feel for him.
See, if it was me with the back, that's the point where I go like that and then go, and then just throw my club down on the floor.
You shouldn't be in shorts.
You know what? The shorts weren't very ceremonial.
It looked like Scotland as well. What are you doing wearing shorts in Scotland?
It looked like a lovely course.
It looked beautiful.
Quite frankly, I think everybody's talking about it.
I think he sets the whole wrong tone by being in shorts.
Shorts is out. What about +4s?
Yeah,
+4s would be nice.
You do what you want there, but it's like Bruno Fernandes in the shirts. If you can't take your shirt off during a football match, you shouldn't be able to take your trousers off during a golf.
So in football, shirts on, golf, trousers on at all times.
At all times. Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed.
Stay with us. Still to come, we'll be looking at all the front pages and the biggest stories in making the news. We've got Suzanne Holder and Alex Armstrong for that. You're tuned in to Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
So after his mad dash to see his father last week, Prince Harry predictably went on TV to talk about it. He gave his first interview to Good Morning America, whilst apparently being filmed by a cruise that were doing a documentary on the Invictus Games. He didn't disclose his father's diagnosis, but frankly, even the fact that he was on TV talking about it was concerning. No wonder they're keeping him at arm's length. This is what he said.
How did you get the news that the King was ill?
I spoke to him.
And what did you do next?
I jumped on a plane and went to go and see him as soon as I could.
How was that visit for you emotionally?
Look, I love my family. The fact that I was able to get on a plane and go and see him and spend any time with him, I'm grateful for that.
An illness in the family can have a galvanizing or sort of reunifying effect for a family.
Absolutely.
Is that possible in this case?
Yeah, I'm sure. Throughout all these families, I see it on a day-to-day basis. The strength of the family unit coming together.
He also said that he loves his family, but then he said that he had his own family in America. So which family does he love? The late Queen's last few years of life were marred with accusations of racism, which Harry later backtracked on, claiming that they hadn't actually used the word, so inadvertently admitting to gaslighting us all. But the Sussex's stock is falling in the States, and the only thing that makes them interesting is their proximity to the royal family. And now the King is ill, Harry has even offered to muck in and take on official duties to help his father. Look, I want to see reconciliation and love and joy, but I'm afraid Meghan has yet to even speak to her father as far as we know, and Harry didn't apparently even reach out to his brother. Whilst his dad might fall for it, I doubt William will be as soft. Good luck with that, Harry.
We're looking at the newspaper front pages this morning, and we're starting with, I suppose, the one that's making waves today, The Sun. They've got this exclusive picture, which is leading all the news programmes this morning, of the Prince and, crucially, the Princess of Wales. We'd heard these reports that they were at a farm shop over the weekend. Now we have the video and grabs taken from it. And there you can see it. If you're listening on the radio, it shows William and Kate looking very casual. William in a hat, Kate in, I think, leggings and a hoodie, both smiling broadly and looking well. And actually, Kate carrying some heavy shopping bags, which I think is interesting after abdominal surgery. Anyway, that's quite enough analysis of that one.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Breaking news, she's fine.
Well, the thing that amazes me is that they've got, don't forget that, we don't want to see the front pages of the papers. The thing that gets me there is that she actually seems to do her shopping in a farm shop. Why would she even need... Surely she has people to do that.
They don't have people, apparently, at weekends. They like to be just the 5 of them. And I was reading that she loves to do all the cooking at weekends, and they have a very traditional setup in their little cosy cottage. Sounds lovely.
OK. Right, Suzanne, what do you think? What do you think of this and this picture being shown?
I think it's fantastic that we can just put everything to rest. Can we just leave the woman alone? I have no idea why people have lost their minds over this at all. I'm quite annoyed on her behalf, actually, that everyone is just speculating endlessly about. She came out, she told people she was having an operation, she asked for some time, she's not been given it. Everyone has just been making up all sorts of weird...
She's created the problem. She released the picture and she doctored the picture.
But the fuss was before the fuss was
came
before
when Prince William pulled out unexpectedly from his godfather's memorial, and everyone was towing the line until then. Everyone was like, "What the heck's going on there?"
Yeah.
And then it spiralled, hasn't it?
It has spiralled, and I think with the picture, I think people have lost their minds over a picture that I can't. She's damned if she does, she's damned if she doesn't. She probably put the picture out thinking, well, everyone's just going crazy. I'll put a picture out, and the photoshopping evidence that I've seen. So what if the sleeves change? So what? I don't care. I think I get quite.
You must care if she's wearing her wedding ring or not.
Well, again, that's up to her. Maybe she doesn't wear a wedding ring when she's in the garden with her children. I think I feel about it because. 5 years ago, I'm not married to a member of the royal family, but I am married to a national treasure. So Noddy Holder, 5 years ago, was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. He was given 6 months to live, and we decided not to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
And that was a difficult thing to... And having lived through the 5 years, and then... We got to 5 years and he decided to come out and tell people. And we don't want to keep banging on about it endlessly because we've told people now, and the only reason he's come out and spoken about it is so that he can do work with the Christie Hospital in Manchester and raise awareness of things to do with esophageal cancer. And I'm sure whatever condition she's had or operation she's had, if there is something she can align herself to in the future, when she feels strong enough and better, I know she will do that. She will come out and say, this is what I've had, when it's right for her. But just because she's a member of the royal family, I don't understand why people think they have the right to know any more than she's told them.
And has Noddy been given the all clear?
You're never really given the all clear with cancer. At the Christie, they always say, we don't use the word cure anymore. We say... you're doing very well. There is no sign of any active cancer, and he's doing great. And the problem with talking about it is people hear one thing and then they go away and think they've heard something else. And I feel for Kate, the level that she's at, the intrusion and the speculation, it's not helpful. She's a 42-year-old mother of 3 who just needs time to get over whatever she's had.
Alex, what do you think about the fact that we're now seeing these grainy images? I mean, for me, it has echoes of the Diana period when the desperation to see a picture of her, to see her this year...
They've okayed that.
Maybe they've okayed it, but that's...
It's another shopper who's taken it, though. You can't go anywhere without somebody with a phone.
They've given their blessing for these pictures to be released.
But the newspapers and indeed the broadcasters would not normally publish grainy pictures of the royals.
Unless they got their permission.
Yes, but is it commoditising the Princess of Wales?
Well, what does that mean, Isabel? You keep using that word, commoditising. What does it mean?
Sell paper. People paying a huge amount of money for this video that the Sun have an exclusive. So much so we couldn't afford to show it this morning because it's that valuable. And that's Princess Diana all over again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they've obviously... Eamonn's right. They've definitely okayed the video to go out because there was that story that came out. I think it was the Mail that broke it yesterday, and there was no footage because it was probably going through the loops of the royal family to approve it. Look, they've obviously gone... There's a lot of controversy. We said we weren't going to do anything until Easter. We're standing by that, so we're not making a formal announcement, which is exactly what they said from the get-go. And so they said, look, OK, you've got a video of us. It's going to leak if they probably don't approve it, even if they don't approve it. Someone will leak it somewhere. The internet's unstoppable. And said, do you know what? It's a pretty nice little video of them walking around being normal. Let's just get it out and dispel all these rumours. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't like how it's become a... And I was saying this, I think I said this last week on the show, guys. I don't like how this has all become such a media frenzy over someone who they clearly said, the palace said time and time again, we're not going to hear from Kate and William until, Kate particularly, until the Easter. OK, guys? And when there was all that frenzy over it, they came out again and they said, we've told you nothing has changed. And we don't know what Kate's been through. We don't know, as Susan correctly said, how serious it was. And it might have been very serious. And maybe she doesn't want to be seen or talk about it.
Yeah, and we've heard from royal sources, haven't we, that the couple were devastated and shaken by suggestions that their marriage was in trouble.
Oh, my goodness. The conspiracy theories were nuts.
If you're not well, fancy having that said about you. And it is very strange. I mean, I've seen it with my own kind of... We had to tell people, look, he can't do this and he can't do that. We just need a bit of time. It's nothing to worry about. I mean, there was something to worry about, but they don't need to worry about it. You don't want to worry people unnecessarily. And some people just went, OK, don't worry, we're here for you whenever, you know, if you want to tell us anything, that's fine. Other people are like, oh, no, you've worried me, man. Tell us. And it's just like, what are you doing? We've asked for time. Why would you do that to somebody? But and also, when you tell people... What good does that do them or you? I don't understand why people have this desire to know. Why do they want to share in somebody's pain?
Can I just say that the photo thing, when the edited photo thing, I don't genuinely believe that she and William... Look, they say they do, but I think that tries to make them feel a bit more normal, make them seem a bit more normal, because they don't want to go, sorry, our PR team released this.
Yeah.
I don't believe for a second she sits there and edits pictures.
I don't believe
William sits there and takes these beautiful, professional-level photography shots of them either. I think there's been a PR cock-up, if I'm allowed to say that word live on air at this time in the morning. I do think they've messed that up, the PR team, and unfortunately, because they have this persona of going, oh, it's us who take it, they have to fall on the sword for that as well. So I do just think they have been the victim of their own team, unfortunately, and I don't think there's anything there, not her fault at all. She has a clean record. She's been in the... She has done nothing wrong her entire life in almost in the spotlight. I mean, for goodness sake, let's cut her some slack.
Just rejoice that she's well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And Suzanne, I would just like to say about people sharing in other people's pain and whatever. I think sometimes they just want to help. They just want to show they care.
Well, maybe.
And could I just say, I was at a wedding recently, and your husband went out of his way to come and sit beside me, and then asked me, did I want to go to the loo? could he escort me to the taxi at the end of the night and whatever. And I didn't even know there was anything that he had been through a bout of sickness himself. But you can tell when people have an interest and are caring and want to give. And I will be forever grateful to him for that, because he was just a hero to me, but not, I didn't know him.
Just so people know, but you were having trouble walking on that day, just so people don't think you were just trying to offer to take you to for anything strange.
Yeah.
But that's what that was about. But well,
it's a lovely thing. Helping people is a lovely thing.
Yeah.
Isabel often helps me.
Oh,
She's
I
very
do.
good.
I try.
Let's talk about, what do we see here? Let's just stay on the subject. No. Keir Starmer. Let's talk about him. So yesterday he vowed to repair the damage caused by years of Tory neglect, and he demanded Rishi Sunak calls an election. Suzanne, so tell us about this. I mean, one of the things we're talking about neglect is we talked about potholes 15 minutes ago on the programme, and this neglect is scandalous, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, we were just trying to think of something before we came in that's working well, and we couldn't think of anything. So that tells you how bad it is, and I'm sure everyone at home could, put your thinking caps on and let us know if you can think of anything that works really well in this country, because we'd love to know, because I can't think of anything. But the Mirror has gone big on Keir Starmer today with a full story across the front page, pages 4, 5, 6 and 7. So if you want to go and get that and have a read of it, there's quite a lot there. I've gone through it for you just to see what he might be talking about. And actually, some of the things are quite interesting. So I will not let you down is the headline, and he's vowing to repair the damage caused by years of Tory neglect. So that's a big job. So what's he starting with? Well, he does say that he's going to protect pubs, which might be quite an interesting thing, keep the triple lock, and look at business rates to kind of even things out for people who have businesses online versus bricks and mortar kind of things.
Yeah.
So other than that, I couldn't find much detail. There was quite a lot of, good talk, but not much kind of, what the actions would be. But that's always the case, isn't it? But there were those specifics that I thought were interesting.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I think the public are waiting to hear a manifesto from the Labour Party, because I would love to know the details.
Wouldn't it be great?
Because look, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to policy, and we've seen there's a lot of rhetoric at the moment, and the tensions are high across the country, culturally and economically. And I think what we really need is the Labour Party to come out and say, here is what we're going to actually do, because it's very easy to combat rhetoric, particularly when the Tories are destroying themselves and the country's a mess. It's very easy to sort of say some big things and actually not do a lot. But I would really like to see what Labour Party have in store.
Well, you might learn more today. Rachel Reeves is doing a really big speech in the City of London. This is the keynote sort of for future chancellors, and she's apparently going to be rebooting the Blair Ear Growth Unit, and that's going to be the key to everything.
Well, I think she said it will be as radical as Thatcher.
There we go. Gosh.
Well, and it has every reason to be, because that's the easiest job ever, to repair Tory damage. There's so much.
Where do you start, Eamonn? Where would you start? Where would
I start? Oh, goodness me. I know everybody keeps saying NHS and all that sort of thing, and when you do lose your health in any way, you realise how dependent you are on something like that. I think I might start with dentists. Get dentists in and around the country. I think it's absolutely just unbelievable that people let their teeth rot in their head because there's no one to fix them.
Well, actually, privately as well, it's really expensive now.
Of course, but that's because government is not paying them the right rate.
But even just going to the hygienist cost me 80 quid.
Yes,
that's right. And they said, "Oh, you need to come back again."
He has mentioned dentists in some of the questions that were asked. It was a whole Q&A thing, and one of the things he answered about dentistry specifically was, "We have got to start fixing the dentistry system. We're going to be making 700,000 emergency appointments available." So says Keir Starmer.
Okay. Right, Alex, let's talk about energy customers set for a payout, and this could open the floodgates, apparently, for lots of micro businesses also seeking compensation. Tell us more. This is in the on the front of the eye.
Front of the eye, yeah. So this is potentially going to be as big as the PPI scandal, supposedly, and unfortunately not for customers. So it's not something that the general public will feel the benefit of. But there's been a case happening up in, I think it's County Durham, that has found a French energy giant has been concealing fees, brokerage fees, for these small businesses, and they're called micro businesses. They turn over less than 1.8 million. That's how you define that, apparently. And so this giant has been hiding these fees over, possibly all the way back to the year 2000. So some of these small businesses could be in for a massive rebate. This company in particular got a rebate of £14,000, which for a small business is a lot of money. It's the difference between paying salaries and not sometimes. So this is setting a precedent essentially here, which means that now the story's broken, that this judgment's been passed. This could open up thousands of other businesses to claim back the same. Under the same rules, essentially. So possibly a pretty big fallout here. The experts are saying this is going to herald the start of a big scandal and that it's going to be breaking over the next few days.
Watch this space.
This Harry and Meghan downgraded. Harry and Meghan were downgraded on the official Buckingham Palace website. You can tell us how, Suzanne, this is front page of the Mail today.
Yeah.
But over the weekend, I saw a picture of him, unless this was some sort of fraudulent AI thing, but he's on a private jet with his mother-in-law, his wife, and the Sprogs. Are all there. And he's
Lily and Archie, Prince and Princess.
From Canada in a private jet, and he's boasting about this. And I thought, is this a joke?
Sounds like it.
It was honestly, he was straight to camera, and she was there as well, and whatever.
Was it a video?
A video. It was a video.
Well, go look that up and check check that out for you to see whether you've been duped or not. I haven't seen that, but it's perfectly possible that is what's happening. But let's check. Yeah. So the story on the front of the Mail is that they've used the word downgraded. I think you could equally use the word kind of updated. Is what you could say that is what's happened to the website. If I was going to kind of be pedantic about it. So the original profile if you go on to the royal website, it was a big biography of both Harry and Meghan, with lots of details about a biography of Prince's early life, his education, his army career, lots of glossy pictures. It has now been updated, or you might think downgraded, to just something very simple that actually details the fact that they've stepped back and it's taken out a lot of the other kind of the stuff. Now, I mean, personally, I just think it's an updating that possibly needed to be done a long time ago. Why it's been done now, who knows? Maybe they've got round to it. Maybe they just think now's the time. But, if you step back from royal life and you decide not to take part in all the things you took part in, there are consequences. And this, to me, just seems like one of the consequences.
OK. And let's talk about the consequences, Alex, of fasting. I have a friend who's a colleague on the programme who likes to fast quite a lot. But is it doing her any harm?
Apparently it increases heart disease by 90%. I'm slightly panicking.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of good news and bad news. So, look, this is a study done in the United States of 20,000 adults. So it's quite a big study. And they're saying that this intermittent fasting, which is where you only eat during 8 hours of a day, you don't eat outside of those 8 hours, is being linked to increased risk of death from heart attacks to strokes, cardiovascular, essentially. Look, the good news is, I mean, this is a very, very popular fasting diet, by the way. But the good news is that they've come out and another team has said that, look, the controlled factors here might have been skewed. There's essentially not taking into consideration BMI, age, drinking, smoking, blood pressure. So maybe not so bad after all.
OK.
Maybe not so bad after all.
Yeah, still not sure I want a dodgy heart, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe just spread out a little bit more.
You feel good for it?
I do feel good for it, but actually it's getting harder the days that I do it. I'm going to bed and I can't sleep because I'm so hungry.
But don't you find with any health advice, so one year they'll say this, and then 6 months later they'll say that. It always goes back and forth.
Stay fast every day, I think, is the idea.
These guys will be fast back to you in about 40 minutes' time. Suzanne and Alex, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. What is the weather doing out there on this Tuesday? We go to Mr. Alex Deacon, and he will tell you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells, which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still time to win our giveaway packed with seasonal essentials. First, there's an incredible £12,345 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash to make your bank account bloom. Plus a spring shopping spree with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. And finally, a garden gadget package including a handheld games console, a portable smart speaker and a pizza oven. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GB-WIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good morning. It is fast approaching 7 o'clock. It is Tuesday, the 19th of March, and you're tuned in to Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Very good to have you on board. These are your headlines on this Tuesday. A royal relief as photos and video emerge of the Princess of Wales out and about over the weekend and looking well.
The Prime Minister's poised for a fresh battle with the House of Lords over his Rwanda bill after a victory in the Commons overnight. We'll be speaking to both the government and the shadow cabinet in the next few minutes.
Local roads around the country are near breaking point. We don't have to tell you that, as pothole numbers reach an 8-year high.
Our debate after 8 is Banksy's latest outing in London artwork trash or treasure? Let us know your thoughts this morning.
And in the sport this morning, Nottingham Forest have 4 points deducted for breaking Premier League profit and sustainability rules. The new football governance bill is introduced in Parliament, which aims to put fans back at the heart of the game, whatever that means. And ahead of their friendlies this week, England unveil their new shirt design. And let's face it, there's been a few over the years.
Another fairly mild day today. There is some rain around at the moment, but most of us will have a brightening up kind of day. Join me later for a full forecast.
Well, it's been a tumultuous few weeks, to say the least, for the royal family, with the Princess of Wales's absence continuing to send social media into a spin.
Right, but there was relief over the weekend after the Prince and Princess of Wales were spotted at a farm shop, a local farm shop in Windsor. And if we go to The Sun today, there it is, front page. It's published the pictures of the royal couple smiling and looking happy as they went about their business.
Well, let's speak to royal correspondent and writer Michael Cole about all of this. Good morning to you. There is a video and the papers published screen grabs from that video. Slightly grainy because we think it was taken by a passerby rather than a professional photographer. Will this put paid to all the rumours, Michael?
Good morning, Isabel. Good morning, Eamonn. 2 weeks is a long time in royal reporting. 2 weeks ago, the papers were united in not publishing a photograph of the Princess of Wales being driven by her mother through Windsor Great Park. Today, 2 newspapers publish photographs, screen grabs taken from this video taken at a farm shop. Why was there this self-denying ordinance before? Why was it that the newspapers would not publish photographs taken of the royal family in their downtime, in their private time? Well, that stems from September the 6th, 1997, when Earl Charles Spencer climbed the steps into the pulpit at Westminster Abbey and delivered his most historic, wonderful eulogy to his sister, who was lying in a coffin in front of him. And during that, he said that Diana, the huntress of classical mythology, had become Diana the Hunted. And newspaper editors were in the congregation that day. They'd all heaved a huge sigh of relief that there were no British photographers in the pack of wolves that chased Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed and their chauffeur Henri Paul to their deaths in the Alma Tunnel. And after that, they resolved not to use photographs of this kind. Now, you have to ask yourself now, Isabel, why has this changed? Well, it's changed because of the trolling and the appalling and vile and frankly mad rubbish that
But Michael, are you saying that the Prince and the Princess would have given their permission for these pictures, these images to be shown today?
It's a very interesting question. I've spent a long part of my life filming people and filming, and you have to ask yourself, and I've looked at that film, do they know that they're being filmed? Can you tell? What do you feel about it? Now, there you are. We're glad to see her smiling. She's looking a little bit pale, not surprising. She underwent major surgery 2 months ago. She's carrying a bag. Does that show you, were they complicit in this? I find it difficult to judge, but certainly this serves a purpose, according to the thinking, I'm sure, at Kensington Palace, to answer some of these outlandish theories and rumours and allegations that have appeared. Yeah.
Let's assume they did give their blessing, because heaven forbid they didn't. You know, what we're seeing, as you've described so eloquently, is this return of this huge hunger and appetite for pictures of the Princess of Wales. William will tell you himself the impact that had on his life. Nobody wants to see a return of that. I was very worried to see these pictures on the front of a national newspaper this morning. Let's hope that the palace gave their permission to them.
Well, it's interesting how they're handling it. I actually think that the press office at Kensington Palace has been batting zero throughout this whole thing, because the fake photo fiasco should not have happened if there had been good staff work. There are highly paid PR professionals at Kensington Palace who should have stopped that ever happening. And what is happening now, Isabel, is that certain favoured journalists are being briefed that in due course the Princess, in a informal situation with members of the public, will talk about her illness. And I'm afraid what happens is, because of these leaks, and there we see her in much happier times, of course, and that's what we want to see return her to full health. Because of these leaks and because of these photographs, I'm afraid it gives more grist to the mill, the rumour mills. I mean, what is required, I think, and it's quite simple, you don't have to go into great detail, but there needs to be a proper official health bulletin saying what is wrong. People are immensely supportive. They are highly sympathetic. And as the princess has known and has said, she enjoys tremendous goodwill among people. She's extraordinarily popular. And I think to set these matters at rest and to give her the space and the time to recover properly, a simple statement saying in outline what the problem is will solve a lot of these problems. That's my view. If I were there, and I've walked both sides of the PR journalism street, that's what I would be advising. And if I'd been there on Sunday, the Sunday of that terrible photograph fiasco, I would have hung my head in shame, because people who are paid highly to prevent that sort of thing happening didn't do their job. They were asleep at the wheel.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for your analysis. He's very direct there. Do you agree with him? Do you not agree? Let us know.
Yeah, I have to say, I've been looking through the inbox, and irrespective of, you know, how the press office have handled this and, you know, whether or not they feel reassured by these pictures, the vast majority are just saying, leave her alone, enough already. And I think that is the sentiment. People feel like she's being hounded and really just want her to get well soon. And, you know, of course, we extend our best wishes to her as well.
And we'll be returning to the subject just around 7:30 this morning. It's a busy political morning. And as you may have heard last night, Nigel Farage is in Florida, where he's interviewed former President Donald Trump. No holds barred in this one. Here's a sneak peek.
If they know something about the drugs and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action. Okay, let's get out of here. I got to go back to work.
Join me tonight at 7 o'clock on GB News. The full interview with Donald J. Trump, and he makes it absolutely clear. He's running, he believes that he is going to win. This is an interview you will not want to miss. Britain's questions answered tonight exclusively on GB News at 7 o'clock. Join me.
Big watch, your big can't miss, 7 o'clock tonight on this very station.
Now, the Prime Minister has secured a victory in the House of Commons overnight, using his majority to vote down the House of Lords' 10 amendments to his Rwanda bill.
Well, this latest development means the PM will face a showdown with the Lords. That's going to happen tomorrow as he seeks the Rwanda bill to be finalised before the Easter break. We're now joined by opinion and features editor at City AM. We say good morning to Alice Denby. Alice, what's your take on this one?
Well, I think if we take a step back and think just how much political capital Rishi Sunak has staked on this bill, which in the end is going to deport about 100 migrants, possibly, out of 6,000 potential people who could be deported. I think it's extraordinary that he's made this the kind of centrepiece of his re-election campaign when it wasn't his bill to start with. And frankly, I don't think anybody really believes that these planes are ever going to take off.
But if he just gets one person on that plane, it's a victory, is it not?
I don't think this is going to turn the polls around, and especially when much as illegal migration is a huge issue and that's something that really care about, legal migration is getting close to 1 million people a year under rules that were set up by this Conservative government. So I just don't think any of this is credible.
Well, you know, people who are fans of the Rwanda bill and of these planes taking off argue that it's the envy of the world, that countries around the world are watching this and looking to replicate it if it's successful. There was some talk at the beginning of the week that this bill could get through by Thursday and we could have flights off as soon as, well, before Easter or around May, at least before the local elections. That now seems a little more unlikely.
Yeah, I think this seems unlikely. I think what's most likely to happen is that the Lords will delay this bill until after Easter. Ultimately, the Lords can't vote it down. That's a convention. They're not elected. But, yes, if this does get kicked back till after the local elections in Easter, if we assume that the local elections go very badly for the Tories, what does that mean in terms of when a general election gets called? There are lots of things at play here.
And what does it mean? I mean, do you think that if those flights were to take off before an election, it will provide the bounce in the polls that Rishi Sunak is looking for? Or is this, as you say, such a small proportion? And when you look at net migration as a whole, it's tiny, not even illegal migration, but net migration.
I think perhaps the reason why Rishi Sunak cares so much about this is that it's the one wedge issue he has with Labour, right? Labour don't have a plan on illegal migration, and they are opposing this bill at every stage. So I think he might think that this is one point of difference that he can put to the electorate, that, you know, this is something I've achieved and that Labour will turn their backs on. I just think looking at the state of the polls and the state of the economy and how people are feeling in their daily lives, how much poorer they're feeling, how badly public services appear to be run, that this is really not going to make the difference.
You talk about it being a convention that Labour can't vote down, that the Lords can't vote down the bill. There is obviously a Labour majority in the Lords. How does it work then? What's the point of the ping-pong process and the delays if absolutely nothing changes? I mean, I know it's been described as wrecking amendments that have been put forward, and the MPs are very unhappy about those. But does it actually water down the bill each time it passes between the two houses?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on which amendments get voted through by the Commons. This is quite a recondite bit of parliamentary
Well, it's
theatre.
just important because are any of these amendments going to get through, do you think? Because last night it was a clean wipeout.
Yeah, I mean, I think we may see some amendments around the safety of Rwanda aspect of it, you know, perhaps some greater protections for guarantees that that country is a safe place to deport people to. You know, we have the legal principle that it is possible for us to deport illegal migrations to a third country is legally sound. The issue is whether or not Rwanda specifically is safe.
And that was one of the amendments last night, but that got rejected by MPs. So can that then come back? Does the same thing go through the Commons again? I mean, just trying to understand the process.
I mean, I have to say, I'm
not sure either. Well, listen, maybe somebody can tell us what happens. It's already been rejected. Removing the claim that Rwanda is a safe country was rejected in the Commons last night. Let's see what happens. Thanks very much, Alan.
Alice, thank you very much indeed. Let's go out and about and find out what the weather is going to do today. Alex Deakin, the man in charge of that.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
A bit of brightness into your spring day. Time to spring up and grab these prizes. This is our Great British Giveaway. This is a goodie.
Yeah, shopping spree, gadget bundle and an incredible £12,345 in cash, and it's all tax-free.
Time is ticking on your chance to win the Great British Giveaway. There's a massive £12,345 in tax-free cash to spend however you like, along with £500 in shopping vouchers for your favourite store, a games console, a pizza oven and a portable Sonos smart speaker. And the best news? You could be our next big winner, just like Phil.
Didn't quite believe it and still can't. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats, and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Now, as a historic football governance bill is introduced to the Commons today to give fans a great voice in the running of their clubs, we are now joined by the Culture Secretary, Lucy Fraser, on all of this. Good morning to you.
We're also joined by Paul Coit, our sportsman here, who's on the ball with all of this, Lucy. Lucy, what does this mean? Fans always love the idea that they can determine what goes on, and we've had a few scares about this recently with the breakaway European Super League. What are you trying to do here?
Well, you're absolutely right. This is all about fans, and we're trying to protect fans because football's been the heart of our nation for 200 years, and it's a massive cultural export. The Premier League is so important, but what we've seen is fans so disappointed when their clubs go into administration, and what we've seen is devastation of communities. You know, communities like Bury, like Derby, and the reason is the clubs aren't financially sustainable. And what we're therefore doing is bringing in a bill today to make sure that those clubs have the financial sustainability that they need.
Lucy, I think it's brilliant what you're saying about fans and getting fans involved, but is it a good idea to get fans involved when it comes to board level, when it comes to the running of the club? Because obviously, a lot of the time, heart will probably rule over head in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really important to get that right balance. So what we want to see is more fan engagement on really critical things that matter to fans, like badges, like colours, whether the stadium should move, because we've seen examples of when a stadium moves, and that really destroys the local community and the club. But it will be a proportionate approach. We're not setting out exactly what that fan engagement should look like in a particular club, because it will work differently in different areas. So, you know, a regulator will have powers to decide and have some discretion to ensure that that works on a local club level, you know, club by club.
Paul, they've got the Secretary of State. She's talking about what they're trying to do, what's going to be imposed. But there is problems here, isn't there? There is the whole situation about foreign ownership.
Of course.
This points deduction, which we'll talk to the Minister about now, the 4 points off Forest, Everton in a bit of a limbo as to what's going on there, and we're probably going to see more and more of this.
I think we are, and Lucy, I think that the thing that I find interesting is when we talk about fans, again, it seems to be fans that suffer these situations when we get points taken away, and it always seems to come back to the fans, maybe not to the club.
This is all about the fans in terms of financial sustainability. I should make clear what we're doing today is making sure that clubs have good financial plans in place, that their owners are fit and proper, that they don't go therefore into administration because they're properly looked after. What the regulator will not do is get involved in the game. That's for football. That's for the football authorities. That's for the clubs. So the legislation is very tightly defined to make sure that what we do is make sure that these clubs don't go into administration. Since the Premier League was formed in 1992, we've seen 64 administrations. It's that destroys the fan base, it destroys communities, and that is what this bill is all about.
Lucy Fraser, we've talked a lot on this programme and all the media on what has been a difficult few days for your boss, the Prime Minister. Last night, the government successfully managed to vote down a series of amendments on his key Rwanda bill, but all the headlines this morning looking at a bit of a bloody nose potentially for him in the Lords tomorrow. The Times saying risks losing the key vote on the Rwanda bill. And I just want to ask you when you think these flights are ever going to take off. Some suggestion now it could be as late as June.
We are hopeful that these flights will take off in the spring. We saw those amendments all fail in the House of Commons last night with strong majorities. Obviously, it will go back to the Lords, but you know what we are doing as a government, as a Conservative government, is trying to ensure that we deter people from taking that journey. We want to see illegal immigration down. We want to see people not making that crossing, and we do think that this bill will be a significant deterrent for people who would otherwise cross the channel.
It's a big gamble, isn't it? it? I mean, the amount of political capital the Prime Minister has expended on a small proportion of those people being deported. And it's not just political capital, it's taxpayers' money, £290 million of our cash. This is seen through 3 Prime Ministers and 4 Home Secretaries, and still not a single flight has taken off.
This is a very difficult problem, and countries across the world are struggling with how to deal with illegal immigration. You mentioned the cost. If we don't manage to get this under control, we know that illegal immigration will cost us £11 billion in the years ahead. And so that's why we're looking to tackle it. I should make clear that it's really important to recognise that the government has taken a number of measures, and as a result of that, we've seen those illegal crossings come down by over a third already. So this is one part of our plan, but we have other plans as well which are already in operation. Crossings from Albania down by 90%. And what is clear is that we have a plan, we're already delivering, and Labour Party have no plan to tackle immigration at all. And we are hoping that the Lords confirm the bill, bring it forward, but certainly that's been the message from the Commons.
See what happens.
Lucy, you didn't bump into Barack Obama yesterday. There's a number of pictures of him in the front pages today. You know, a very charismatic political leader. He calls into Downing Street to see the PM. And of course, he's a man that knows all about migration as well.
Yes, no, I didn't manage to bump into him. I would have loved to have had a chat. I understand it was a personal meeting, and no, I think it's always good to speak to foreign leaders and former foreign leaders.
In your role as Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, of course, you have oversight over channels like us. Here at GB News, you'll be aware of the Ofcom ruling yesterday. Now, the channel has doubled down and said they remain committed to serving politicians, hosting programmes on the channel. Do you support that position?
I think that GB News does a fantastic job. I'm in favour of media plurality. I think you have a lot of viewers who are very interested in the output that you have, as indeed other channels do as well. GB News has decided to be regulated by Ofcom, and you're obviously referring to some decisions that came out yesterday. I mean, it's very clear that there's a rule that doesn't allow sitting MPs to present news, but does allow them to present current affairs programmes. And that is, as I understand it, what presenters are doing at the moment in GB News.
Just to be clear, did you agree with that ruling? Because GB News has said that they feel as if the goalposts have been moved specifically because the programme was found to be impartial, and that there wasn't a problem with the programme itself. It was just that somebody could have found it to be impartial.
Yeah, I think there were 2 decisions that Ofcom came to in relation to GB News. One was in relation to impartiality, and that's a question for them. They are the regulator. And the other was whether there was a breach of the Broadcasting Code, because the Broadcasting Code says that a sitting MP cannot present news, as in live news that is happening, but they can present current affairs programmes. And that was the second part of the Ofcom ruling.
Well, Lucy, today you're going to be talking about fans, putting them back at the heart of football governance, and we look forward to what you've got to say on that. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
We've got lots more coming up for you this morning. Indeed, we're crossing to LA to speak to the showbiz and royal reporter Kinsey Schofield for her views on the Princess of Wales. Stay tuned.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers. I agree. And that's precisely what I'll get. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More reaction coming in about these Princess of Wales pictures, front page of the Sun today. Let's go to Los Angeles. Kinsey Schofield on this one. Kinsey, were you surprised that these have emerged today or not?
I think I was surprised because you saw a lot of pushback after the Sun's initial story that she was spotted. Everybody and their mom said, well, why doesn't a picture exist? Why doesn't a video exist? Which was hard to argue with, but we have this video now. To me, it's very clearly the Prince and Princess of Wales, despite what some of the online chatter is. I think she looks happy, healthy, and beautiful. And after a rough couple of months, I'm grateful to see them. And I do hope that they were okay with these photos being taken, because, you know, if you read that piece in the Times over the weekend, there was a discussion about how Prince William was having a hard time feeling like their bubble that they had created was being jeopardized.
Yeah. So has he, has she, have they together or separately, or Kensington Palace, okayed these pictures? Have these been deliberately put out there?
I think that's a great question. I think that there is a reason why the children aren't with them. You know, if this is in fact a strategy that they're trying to use to hush some of the international scandal, the international conversation, surely that's something that they wouldn't want their children to be involved in. And according to The Sun, they were seen at sporting events earlier in the day. Throughout the weekend, they were seen at sporting events with their children. So I do think it's important to note that the children weren't photographed with them.
People might not realise this about you, Kinsey, because you're so often on our screens, but actually you're a bit of a Princess Diana expert with your podcast called the To Die For Daily. And I just wonder with this, and you were saying you really hope these pictures have the couple's blessing. There's lots of talk about the hounding of the Princess of Wales, having echoes of the hounding of Princess Diana. Do you get that feeling as well? And do you worry about that with the releasing of these images, we could return to that kind of increased appetite for snaps and seeing pictures that aren't official being put on the front of newspapers again?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point. I think in this case, replace cameras with keyboards, and you are seeing the same kind of pulling and just demanding of a woman who doesn't owe us anything. You know, they specifically told us, which I thought was a privilege in January, she's gone under the knife for this abdominal surgery. Do not expect to see her until Easter. Doctors' orders are that she recovers and that she takes this time to recuperate. And instead of allowing her the grace to just privately recover in peace. I mean, what we're seeing, and even with, I think, the Mother's Day photo, was them kind of giving in to social media pressure, which is unfortunate because these two are analytically the most popular members of the British royal family. They were in a position to kind of set their own rules. And I think that releasing the image on Mother's Day kind of jeopardized their standing in the way that they were able to control their schedules so much. But I do believe we are hounding her and demanding things of her that are none of our business. And I feel real sympathy for her. And here in the States, the Kim Kardashians, the Blake Lively's, the John Olivers, the Stephen Colberts, and the people that are mocking it and making fun of it, I think that they are going to feel real guilt if and when we find out the truth behind her illness.
The Sussexes have been a bit quiet on this one, haven't they?
Have they really? I mean, I would not launch a brand, a website, an entire lifestyle, campaign in the middle of what seems to be a tense time for my sister-in-law. I think that Meghan completely took advantage of Catherine's popularity right now and the interest that the Princess of Wales has generated in launching American Riviera Orchard. If you look at Catherine's... Oh, go ahead.
Riviera Orchard, I mean, I don't know what the Americans think of it, but it just makes me cringe, just the name. Has there been much reaction to it?
I saw someone say that it sounded like a senior living facility, which made me laugh quite a bit. But if you look at the Princess of Wales's popularity here in the States right now, there were since January 2024, there were over 276,000 articles written about Princess Kate since January 2024. Between Donald Trump and Joe Biden combined, only over 101,000 articles. So she, almost like triples these people that are running for president here when it comes to interest in the princess. So Americans are really interested in her. And I think Meghan, in a way, tried to jump on top of that and see if she could get some traction.
OK, what happens next, Kinsey? Looking into your crystal ball, how do you see this one playing out for the Princess of Wales?
We love her. We've missed her tremendously. I think that she's been criticized unfairly, but knowing how popular she is and how loved she is, I think that people are going to be beyond willing to forgive and forget and just be excited to have her back in action after Easter. I think we will see her on Easter holiday with the family at church, but there are reports that we might not see her return full time until after April 17th.
OK, well, as long as she's well, that's the main thing. And what you are reflecting there is certainly what our viewers and listeners seem to be saying as well. People just wish she's OK, leave her alone, let them get on with their lives and have a good Easter. You have a good Easter too. Hope to see you before then. Lovely seeing you again,
Always.
Kinsey. She's my favourite.
She's my favourite.
She's my favourite.
Yeah, come back again soon, Kinsey. We don't see you enough.
She's royalty, showbiz royalty.
Yeah. She's always got the scoops.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Right, stay with us. Coming up, we'll be joined by the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. That's Darren Jones, and he'll be talking about Labour's plan for the economy. See you in a moment.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're joined by the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, that is Darren Jones. A very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. We're expecting a big speech from possibly the future Chancellor Rachel Reeves today in the City. This is the one that everyone sits up and listens to. If she can win over the financial sector, that will be something. What are we expecting to hear from her today?
Well, good morning. Rachel will be giving her May's lecture this evening, as you've said. The May's lecture is a pretty totemic lecture for any Shadow Chancellor or Chancellor, and Rachel will be setting out how we are on the cusp of an opportunity in this country, an opportunity for a decade of national renewal, where we can get growth back into our economy, make people better off, and start to turn the page on 14 years of failure from the Conservatives.
In terms of making people feel that you are getting things back on track and that the mood is changing.
That's right, but also being honest about the fact that the state that the country in is not great. Rachel Reeves has already said that if Labour is to win the election later this year, it'll be the worst fiscal inheritance that any party's had since the Second World War. And that's why we talk about a decade of national renewal. There'll be some things we can do immediately, and public services are obviously one of our priorities. But in the long run, we need to get growth back into the economy so that people do feel better off and businesses are paying more tax off the back of profits, so that we have more money coming into the Treasury for tax cuts and for public service investment in a sustainable way. But she will highlight the fact that after 14 years of the country bumbling along the bottom, now in recession, we've really got to focus on what the government can do to get it back on track. And for us, that's around stability, investment and reform, political and economic stability, which we've not had for a long time, a decade of investment, private and public, and the government really taking seriously the reforms that are necessary to deliver for our country.
Darren, if you haven't got money in the Treasury, if the cupboard is bare, how are you going to do that?
Well, a lot of economic growth comes from the private sector. It doesn't come from spending people's taxes. And so you want businesses to be having the confidence to invest, whether that's in building things or growing their economy and employing more people. And when those businesses are more productive, offering those pay rises to their workers so that they can feel better off too. But we hear all the time from investors and businesses that even though they've got money to invest, they're not investing in the UK right now for a whole host of reasons. Many of those reasons are things that a government can fix by working in partnership with the private sector. And that's why we've set out our plans for doing just that.
I'm interested in some of the rhetoric that Rachel Reeves is using. I mean, we talk on this channel a lot about the red wall, but I wonder if the blue wall is pretty pivotal to you guys. I mean, to see Rachel Reeves' speech that hasn't even happened right on the front of the right-wing Daily Telegraph this morning, talking about us being on the cusp of a 1979 moment and saying that her change will be as radical as Thatcher. She's talked about Thatcher as being a heroine of hers. I mean, is this a ploy to try and woo Conservative voters?
Well, look, the Labour Party is now a party under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves fit for government, and that means being a party for the whole country. I know we talk a lot about red wall, blue wall. I think the Liberal Democrats say there's a yellow wall as well. There's probably some others. But actually, we're appealing to voters across the whole country, and that means being on the newspapers, being on the TV channels, being wherever people are and having the conversation with them about our plans for the country and showing that the Labour Party has changed under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' leadership and that we're ready to transform the country on their behalf.
People are going to have to see something. They're going to have to feel something, Darren, something that makes things different, the whole aesthetics of the country. Potholes in the roads is a very good example of this, at an 8-year high today, as if it couldn't get any worse. But the figures say that it hasn't been worse in the past 8 years. Seriously, is something like that going to change? I would argue with you it would make a big difference in terms of how people feel things are changing. What would you do about potholes?
Well, potholes, a really important issue that comes up all the time. As a constituency MP, I hear it all the time from constituents, and as someone that drives around my constituency, I cuss just as much as everybody else when you slam your tyres into these things. There's a treasury issue here, which is that at the moment, the government does an annual settlement as opposed to a 3-year settlement, which is what governments normally do. That's because of the instability we've had in our country. The problem with that is you've got an annual pothole fund, which is one pot of money that has to be spent in that year. So councils will get the guys along with tarmac just to fill it in, and as we know, that all comes up again pretty quickly. What you really need is a longer term settlement that allows councils to have the funding to do proper maintenance of our roads. And if you can do proper ongoing maintenance, the risk of potholes goes down, and over time you'll be able to fix that. And that's why we're providing political stability, talking about investment and reform, so we'll be able to solve issues such as that.
Yeah, Darren, talk about cursing. You must have been cursing the moment that Jeremy Hunt announced the non-dom scrapping, stealing your pledge, leaving a huge black hole in your finances and no way to pay for all these pledges that you've been making. Were you cursing under your breath, and how are you going to pay for everything now?
I should probably just clarify, I'm a bit too polite to be cursing too frequently, but look, we were not cursing when the Tories took the non-dom status from us. We found it quite amusing, to be honest, because we'd been arguing for that for years as an effective way to raise taxes that were so important for our public services. And until about the week before the budget, Jeremy Hunt and the Conservatives were saying that that plan was not effective, that it wouldn't raise any money, that it would cost the country money. And now in the budget, they've taken our policy and they've said it's going to raise over £3 billion a year. We agree with that assessment. We think that they should have done it years ago. Well, we will set out in our manifesto all of our policies being fully funded and fully costed. There are still measures that we've announced this side of the manifesto, for example, on closing the VAT loophole on private schools and dealing with private equity taxation for people that buy and sell businesses that raise an immediate injection of cash for our public services. But again, this is why you've got to get back to growth. If our country had been growing on average at the same rate as other wealthy countries, we'd have £50 billion more each year to pay for public services, but we don't, because the Tories have failed to get the economy growing, and that's why we're in recession right now.
That's Darren Jones there. He's the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, speaking from College Green in Westminster this morning. Thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing what Rachel Reid has to say later on today. Thank you very much.
And stay with us. We've got lots more for you this morning. Alex Armstrong and Suzanne Hodd will be back with us, taking us through the papers in just a moment.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Welcome back to Headliners. And Paul, we're going to get straight into Monday's mail for some good old-fashioned, traditional male breastfeeding.
Yeah. To answer the question, what is the latest woke hell, Josh? Row as hospitals say hormone-filled milk from trans women who were born male is just as good for a baby as the real thing. It's possible for men, if they pump themselves full of estrogen, to grow larger breast tissue, and they often do. If
or you just eat lots of burgers.
Exhibit A. And once you've done that, it is actually then possible to express or lactate a liquid. Okay. If to that liquid you then add another load of pills, medication, chemicals, whatever, that lactation juice can be fed to a baby.
We don't really... This is not for the sake of the baby. The baby has no benefits from this whatsoever. The studies are very weak on it. It's a bit worrying because, you know, when hospitals started indulging in homeopathy and having, the NHS had homeopathic hospitals, that was worrying because they're supposed to be a trusted authority. And before saying something like this, there should be an awful lot of study done.
I want to shame this hospital. This is
whether it's necessary.
University Hospitals Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. That's who it is. And they have written one of the stupidest sentences I have read aloud in the 2 years that I've been privileged to do this show. It says, the term human milk is meant to be neutral and not gender biased.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Oh, my God, we're laughing at you.
I mean, and as someone says here, babies are not props. And that's the scary thing. And when we're not focusing primarily on the health of a baby.
No, but the feeling of a person doing it rather than... It's a bit of an odd way to go, isn't it? So...
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task. And this report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's see what you've got front pages of the newspapers today. This is the way they're stacking up. The Sun, this is the story that we're featuring today, the exclusive picture of the Prince and Princess of Wales. They're out at a farm shop in the Windsor estate over the weekend.
At the front of the Times is warning that Sunak risks losing key votes as the Rwanda bill ping-pongs between the Commons and the Lords.
And that's Barack Obama, believe it or not.
Yeah, very white, I noticed his hair's on the turn.
It's turned, well and truly turned. The Mirror leads with Keir Starmer's promise to repair years of Conservative neglect. I will not let you down, he says. Here's the eye.
It says energy customers could be set for payouts worth billions, and the scandal said to be bigger than the PPI COVID equipment crisis.
downgraded by the Palace Mail's top line after Harry and Meghan's royal bios are amended on the royal website. And joining us now to go through all of these stories and more, Suzanne Holder, the author and journalist, and Alex Armstrong, the political commentator. And I think we've talked enough about Kate today, Suzanne. So, well, unless there's anything, just as long as she's healthy, that's really...
It is. But the only thing I do think is interesting, actually, I don't know whether people are actually aware that the pictures that they're seeing weren't taken by a photographer, weren't taken by what we used to call a paparazzi or anything like that. It's just a member of the public. And my question is, if you were out and you saw someone like Kate, would you lift your phone up, take that picture and try and sell it? Because I don't think I would.
I can assure you people do.
I know they do.
Yeah.
I know they do. But and it's interesting, you mentioned earlier about being at that wedding where my husband helped you when you were having trouble walking across the dance floor. I don't know whether you were aware, but there was obviously photographers there, and somebody came up trying to get that picture while that was happening at that wedding. And I went up in their face and went, really? Right now?
Yeah.
And they backed off. And I do actually think people just need to have a bit of sense about what you're taking pictures of.
Yeah, that's good, that's good. Alex, Rachel Reeves, we were talking there about what she's going to serve up today in terms of changing spending and how people view the country. And Keir Starmer is the front of the mirror today saying, I will not let you down.
Yeah, so, I mean, Rachel Reeves is saying that, you know, the country faces the same crisis that Thatcher inherited. She's saying this is going to be a radical Labour government and it's going to usher in a decade of national renewal. This is what Rachel Reeves is promising. Now, I mean, I've read her piece on this, or so, just her commentary piece on this. And there's no policy here yet. Let's just be clear. This is a lot of rhetoric at the moment. The one thing that Rachel Reeves is saying, this is the Shadow Chancellor, by the way, she's saying that there's going to be the Treasury Enterprise and Growth Unit's going to have an enhanced role in policy making. And basically, she then says we're doubling down on capitalism. And I think this is part of, obviously, her speech today. She's trying to make a big appeal to Tory voters, you know, bringing up Thatcher, bringing up capitalism and doubling down on profit-making businesses. This is moving into Tory territory.
You're talking about this Enterprise and Growth Unit. She wants to give it a meaningful say in the content of every budget. Is that elbowing out the OBR, which they say that the Treasury have become effectively penny counters or billion counters?
There's criticism now that the Tories are run by the OBR. They might as well be leading the Conservative Party.
The Office for Budget Responsibility.
That's correct. Yeah. So interesting.
Let's look at this bit of artwork that may be a Banksy or not, Suzanne.
Well, apparently he has admitted it on Instagram, which is the way Banksy does things.
And now, where is this it's London, isn't it?
It's Finsbury Park, yes. It's on a side of a residential property in Finsbury Park. So the picture, it looks like it's a picture of a tree. That tree is real. Yeah. And the picture is somebody with a kind of a spray behind and then the green paint up, kind of making a point. They think it's making kind of a point, the fact that we need to help nature because it's not kind of doing it by itself.
That's what Corbyn has said.
Is that what? Okay, yeah. But I mean, again, with any artwork, it's about your interpretation, isn't it? I'm sure the artist always have a point, and how you interpret art is up to you. But what I would like to know is who owns something. If you woke up one day and a Banksy was on the side of your house,
you own it.
You do own it. You don't own the right to copyright to copy it. The copyright is still the artist. But it actually would put a lot of value, apparently, on a property if you woke up and found a Banksy. So there was one in Nottingham where a house that average price 178,000 went for $2.5 million because it had a Banksy on the side.
But it's a lot of rubbish.
Well,
look at it. Put it up again.
It's a lot of rubbish. I don't like it. It's all. I think it's stencil art. Personally, and it's just someone spray painting rubbish. I agree with Eamonn.
Banksies are usually fairly intricate and impressive, whether you like graffiti or not. I mean, I've been to Banksy exhibitions. I worked in Bristol for many years, where, of course, he comes from. He's a bit of a hero there. You can see them on Park Street. There's one outside a former STI clinic with the woman hanging out the window naked. They're usually pretty incredible to look at. I would say that isn't the sort of detail that we're used to from Banksy, which is why there have been questions about whether it's legitimate.
Maybe he didn't have a lot of time.
The purpose of art is to make you think, make you pause.
Sorry, that's not art, that's graffiti.
It is.
Well,
that's graffiti art.
He has come out and said that it is him, though. I'm pretty sure he's confirmed it's him.
He has on Instagram, apparently, yeah. I mean, some of Banksy's are more arty and more, and perhaps people who like art would appreciate more. Some are more graffiti. It is about the point that he's making, I think, but art is always open.
I went to Rome last year, and I don't think I can ever look at art the same way again, personally. I'm just blown away by what they could do hundreds of years ago, and our version of art today is
Alex,
banana on a floor.
Interesting you mentioned Rome, because my memories of Rome are
graffiti.
The graffiti from the journey from the airport to the city centre. You've never seen as much, and I'll tell you what, it's not Banksy style graffiti.
True, that's very
it's horrible, messy, litter-strewn taglines and all sorts.
OK, guys, hold that thought. We'll come back and you debate that. GBviews at gbnews.com. The guys will be back at 8:30 this morning. Let's get a weather update, and for us on this Tuesday morning, if you're going out and about, will you need a coat? Alex Deacon will tell you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time is ticking on your chance to win the Great British Giveaway. There's a massive £12,345 in tax-free cash to spend however you like, along with £500 in shopping vouchers for your favourite store, a games console, a pizza oven and a portable Sonos smart speaker. And the best news? You could be our next big winner, just like Phil.
Didn't quite believe it and still can't. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats, and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Hello there, very good to see you. The time, very nearly 8 o'clock, Tuesday the 19th of March.
You're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster. Lovely to have you with us.
A royal relief as photographs and video emerge of the Princess of Wales out and about over the weekend. We've been gathering your views on this one.
The Prime Minister is poised for a fresh battle with the House of Lords over his Rwanda bill after a victory in the Commons overnight.
And our debate at 8:20, that apparently is art. That is Banksy's latest outing. Is it trash or is it treasure? Let us know your thoughts.
And in sport this morning, Nottingham Forest have 4 points deducted for breaking Premier League profit and sustainability rules. Ahead of their friendlies this week in the Euros, England unveil their new shirt design, whilst Bruno Fernandes thinks players should be allowed to celebrate by taking their shirts off, if they want to.
Another fairly mild day today. There is some rain around at the moment, but most of us will have a brightening up kind of day. Join me later for a full forecast.
Now, Nigel Farage is in Florida at the moment, where he's interviewed the former President Donald Trump. So here is a sneak preview of what we believe will be a no-holds-barred interview.
Join me tonight at 7 o'clock on GB News, the full interview with Donald J. Trump, and he makes it absolutely clear. He's running, he believes that he is going to win. Prince Harry may not be able to stay in America if Trump gets elected.
If they know something about the drugs and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action.
He's accused of calling for bloodshed if he loses, but actually the context of that is all completely and utterly wrong.
It's going to be a terrible bloodbath for the auto industry. The United Auto Workers, it's going to be put out of business.
And importantly, for global security, we get tonight the definitive answer of where Trump stands on NATO. This has global significance.
Why should we guard these countries that have a lot of money, but now they're paying because of those comments that you saw 2-3 weeks ago?
This is an interview you will not want to miss. Tonight, exclusively on GB News at 7 o'clock. Join me.
Be there or be square.
Well, joining us now is political editor of The Express Online, David Maddox, to give us his views on all things politics today, including that interview with Donald Trump. Obviously, hopeful for the election this November. What did you make from that little sneak peek?
I think it's going to be fascinating, actually. There's all sorts of people who put spin on what Donald Trump says, but actually he's a pretty straight talker. I was lucky enough to meet him at CPAC, actually with Nigel, a few weeks ago. And, you know, in one-to-one, he's quite a surprising person. And, you know, obviously he and Nigel have a great relationship. I'm really looking forward to this interview, I have to say.
What is it in particular that Donald Trump might say that could have an impact on us here in the UK, and lots of people questioning whether he will say anything about Ukraine? Continuing support for Zelensky has been faltering, you could say, particularly when it comes to the issue of NATO. He's been quite controversial. What should we be looking out for from a British perspective, I suppose?
I suppose the two big things, the biggest thing of all is NATO and security in Europe. I think people are kind of probably going to be disappointed with his answer on Ukraine. I suspect he wants a deal quickly and he wants the end to the war rather than continuing supporting that war going on. That will be very controversial. But the other one, and I know Nigel was quite vexed about this a few weeks ago, is of course the support for NATO. And there was that suggestion that he would withdraw support from NATO and even invite Russia to invade NATO members, which I think was overplayed a bit. But, he needs to really kind of explain whether he's going to back European security or not, because there's all sorts of pressures on us, for example, in Britain to join the European army and military. And if NATO starts falling apart, without America, NATO is nothing. We'll be under pressure to, kind of go back to Brussels and start working with them on the military level, which probably would be a hard pill to swallow here.
Has he ever expressed an opinion on Rwanda and the idea of this business of shipping migrants to there?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think I suspect he would be quite supportive of the idea in concept. The problem with Rwanda, of course, is whether it's an idea that could actually be done properly. I know actually a number of countries are looking at it. I mean, I've had contacts from Italy and Eastern Europe and Scandinavia actually, who have asked about it, certainly monitoring it. Of course, America doesn't have the issue of the Human Rights Court that we have. They have their own Supreme Court. So, I suspect he would probably quite like the idea. He might actually be able to implement it a bit more easily than we did.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how we're getting on here with that bill. Labour have vowed to oppose it all the way. The government was successful in seeing off those amendments from the Lords last night, but there could be a bit of a bruising in the Lords as it's bounced back there tomorrow night. What do you expect from that?
This is going to be a real hard fight. This is going to be, what we call ping pong in Westminster. The Lords is packed full of fairly lefty peers who really oppose this, the whole idea. They just hate the concept of these deportations and will do what they can. I mean, Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is the kind of face of this, but there's plenty others behind him. And they will keep trying to block it. Eventually, I think the government will play out and win this one if they've just got to hold their nerve and stay determined. I mean, I was speaking to somebody close to James Cleverly on Friday, the Home Secretary on Friday, and it was, very clear that they are not going to back down on this, but it is going to go ahead. They are absolutely determined that more than one flight, a number of flights, will take off before there's a general election, so voters can see that this scheme works, and they think that once it gets into the idea, that it does work, that we will see a huge drop off in the number of small boats because basically the business model will be broken. That we'll wait and see, but it certainly worked with Albania. When they sent back, I think, 3,000 people to Albania, suddenly there was an enormous drop-off of people coming from Albania. So, there's some optimism. The question will be, can they get this through the Lords in time? And that's going to be a fight.
Okay.
David Maddox is the political editor for The Express Online. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. The time now, coming up to 8 minutes past 8.
We're going to take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning, and the rate of pothole repairs on local roads in England and Wales has reached an 8-year high, according to a new report from the Asphalt Industry Alliance. There are now concerns that highways are reaching what they describe as breaking point, as the AIA found local authorities expect to fix 2 million potholes in the next year. We spoke to Mr. Pothole, Mark Morell, earlier.
Breaking point, you can see by the state of the roads. It's a case where our roads haven't maintained, because a well-maintained road doesn't get affected nowhere near as much by the weather itself. Unless the government invests in a multi-billion-pound resurfacing programme year on year, not just for 5 years, not just for 10 years, 25 years like places like Japan.
Now, after the Home Office poured millions into converting a former RAF airbase into suitable housing for migrants, it's now been confirmed that RAF Scampton will be capped at 800 migrants instead of the original 2,000. GB News East Midlands reporter Will Hollis is outside the airbase this morning. Good morning, Will.
Good morning. The Home Office, in a letter to the local MP, Sir Edward Lee, has described this climb down by more than half in the quantity of asylum seekers that will be moving here as a review of occupancy capacity. So 800 asylum seekers will bring Scampton in line with what's already happened at Wethersfield in Essex, where some 800 asylum seekers are already in place at the former airbase, but not a single asylum seeker has moved into Lincolnshire as of yet. There are three main concerns that have been raised by local politicians as well as the community regarding services, regarding safety, but also for what might happen to a £300 million regeneration bill which will turn RAF Scampton into a world-class heritage centre. Now, we have had a letter from the Home Office, a statement from the Home Office which says we remain committed to housing asylum seekers at Wethersfield and Scampton and will manage occupancy at the sites while prioritising welfare and integration. It continues by saying we are working closely to listen to the local community's views and reduce the impact of these sites, including through providing on-site security and financial support.
OK, well, thank you very much.
Tata Steel will begin shutting down operations at its site in Port Talbot from tomorrow due to stability concerns. The steel group said it had been forced to make the closures earlier than planned because equipment can no longer be run safely.
And it seems years of guessing who'll take over from Daniel Craig as the next James Bond could be put to bed after reports say the British actor Aaron Taylor-Johnson has formally been offered the role. It's alleged the star will sign the contract within weeks and officially become only the 7th actor to take on the role.
Never heard of him.
Apparently he's in lots of Marvel movies. Aaron Armstrong on the pay-per-view said, oh, the young folks have... Sorry, Alex Armstrong was telling us that all the young folks know him from Marvel. Rules us out.
New research from Historic England has found an increase in the number of thefts from heritage sites right across the country.
Yeah, criminals, perhaps driven by the cost of living crisis, or that might be giving them...
does that make it
nice,
OK?
Exactly. Have been targeting valuable materials such as York stone and lead from historical sites, selling them on for cash.
Our North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper wasn't stolen. She was free to visit a church in Cheshire that has been hit by a spate of these thefts.
Established during the Saxon era, St Mary's Church in Congleton, Cheshire, has been at the heart of its community for hundreds of years. But despite its deep historic and religious roots, it's become just one of many sites to be targeted by criminals. 2 years ago, 3 men were arrested and found guilty of stealing over £100,000 worth of York stone from 8 different sites, including here at St Mary's.
This church was directly affected when, in 2022, we had the stone path that leads up to it, the York stone, stolen. And when we talk about this kind of crime, and some people might wonder why we, invest so much time and money in heritage crime, it's because it's a crime against every single one of us when it happens.
Once the culprits were caught, the stone was then recovered and replaced, restoring the damaged path. Now, Cheshire's rural crime team want people to know they're cracking down hard on this kind of offence.
So really important that people understand that we will go out of our way to go after people that are responsible for this sort of crime. We're looking at soil analysis, we're looking at the botany of any kind of plant or material that's on it as well, and we're linking that back to people's cars, their houses, and various other bits as well, which is getting us really solid convictions.
But this isn't just a localised issue. Up and down the country, historic heritage sites are seeing more and more incidents of valuable materials being stolen and pawned off to the highest bidder. But what is it about these sites that has suddenly made them such an interesting target for potential thieves?
In many cases, they just see it as a commodity. They don't see the historical
linkage at all. So if they're turning up to take the lead from a church, they're not going, oh, crikey, that's an old church, I'll leave it alone. They just see that with pound note signs on it.
New research suggests that the cost of living may well be affecting the number of incidents of this nature as people choose to break the law in order to make extra money. But to historic England, the value of our heritage is priceless.
You can imagine how many footsteps have been taken on those paths over the years. Weddings, funerals, christenings, people turning up for worship. How do you put a value on that?
As work now continues across the country to protect our heritage sites, the message from their guardians is clear. Thieves, beware. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
We certainly do have some incredible historical sites in this country that we should protect and should be incredibly proud of. Just seeing those aerial pictures there, they're quintessentially British, aren't they? You don't see that anywhere else.
And just such a pity that people can't keep their thieving hands off things. Been a tumultuous few weeks for the royal family. Let's return to this story, front page of the Sun today. Wills and Kate are out and about. They go to a farm shop. They went there on Sunday, we believe. And let's see what we'll get with this one. Who have we got to talk to?
We've got Ian Pelham-Turner. He's a royal photographer and royal historian who joins us for his view in all of this. Good morning to you. My concern looking at this picture is that it reminds me of the Diana days when a grainy picture from a paparazzi or from a passerby makes it onto the front of a newspaper. Shaking your head already, Ian.
I totally agree with you, because I think the issue at the moment is, I mean, at least it's a happy royal picture today. William is out again today in Sheffield, and in reality right now, we want to see positive royals as well. My one sort of concern, only a slight concern, is obviously I worked during the days of Diana as well. And the reality nowadays is that people sort of taking photographs of them and then trying to sell them, who knows, across the world, may sort of start a trend that really just reminds me again of the Diana days, as you so rightly say.
Well, when he's out and about in Sheffield today, Ian, would it not be a big help if he just said to people, thanks for asking about the princess. I have to say, so far so good. Fingers crossed she's doing really well, and hopefully we'll see her back on the road after Easter.
Eamonn, exactly right. I mean, they've just been voted the most trusted royal pair, William and Kate, in the first place. They're at the Royal Foundation Homeward programme today, or he is, I should say, William is, which is a programme to actually really work with homeless people. I've got great traction in this myself. I was homeless at one time 25 years ago, so I know, you know, the values of being supported as well at the same time. I think the reality nowadays is that the good works that they're doing need to be highlighted again. Let's get rid of all this social media issues that have been going on. Let's move forward.
Can I ask you about this picture that Getty have come out now and rejected, saying it was edited at source? This is a picture that many people will be familiar of, the late Queen surrounded by all her lovely grandchildren. And they've gone back in time, and I think they found 7 dodgy edits that they say means that it can't be trusted as an original picture. The goals have changed. Was everybody told the rules had changed? And how does this change the relationship, do you think, between the press and the royal family, which I would say was in a pretty good place prior to all this Kate saga?
I think the reality is there is an issue now of trust between media and the royal family, you know, and how do you get over it? You get over it by, I think, rather than using press photographers or highly skilled photographers as well that are used to working with the royal family. You know, when I used to do it, I haven't worked as a photographer for over 15 years now. But when I did it, I mean, you know, there was a lot of really intricacy in the first place, looking at how to make the picture up. It just didn't happen on the day. You actually set the whole thing up a week beforehand. Every question was asked, lighting was organised, the whole issue was made so that everybody looked happy. And there were different ways. You know, I know they're working with the children, excuse me, working with the children. But there was one photographer that I used to know that if he was faced with a huge group of people, he would actually have a bugle with him. And he would blow the bugle, and everybody would look at him, and that's when he took the photograph, you know. So there was a lot of tricks of the trade at that time. And I think the reality at the moment, trying to manipulate photography too much, as you know, I was concerned about it when I was on the show last week. And I think that the reality is, for me, you know, just be natural. Whatever comes out, comes out.
Except, Ian, I hear what you're saying, get the argument totally, but no one else plays by the same rules. Everybody's doctoring their photographs. There's buttons on your phone that will give you the best image of yourself. Well, why should the royals be any different?
I think the reality, because it comes down to trust in the end, you know, and I mean, I work with TV channels right across the world. And they're all coming in with the same thing now about that they saw the photograph in the Telegraph last night as well, you know, late last night, and getting calls, you know. And so I think at the moment it's a matter of trust, but it's also a matter of expertise at the same time. You know, I mean, I can only go back to, for example, when I did William's first baby shot, Christmas baby shot in many years ago now. And we were given 7 minutes in those days to get the most official photographs in the world. So I think these days photographers have a huge amount of time to actually set everything up. Everything is ready for them. I mean, you know, they've got, obviously, you know, with the cameras they have nowadays, they can see the images straight away as well. We never knew what we'd actually got until the films were developed.
Well, there we go. And that added to the magic.
To return to that.
Ian Pelham-Turner, thank you very much. Fascinating listening to you. Thank you very much.
Lots of you have been having your say this morning, and it feels as though the mood has kind of moved away from where's Kate, is Kate okay? Everybody's saying we wish Kate well, and it seems to be a bit more of a debate about the role of pictures in all of this and whether this is a bit of sort of echoes of Diana. Keep those thoughts coming in, GB Views at gbnews.com.
We're going to be talking not so much about a picture, but a painting that's
not
popped
so much
up
a painting
in London.
There's a mess, as you were saying.
Well, whatever floats your boat. But anyway, it's what's his name?
Banksy.
It's a Banksy. Is it a Banksy or is it a whatever? Weather update now. Alex Deacon, good morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, will be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
That very pleasant part of the day when we give you a chance to win our Great British Spring giveaway.
Yeah, a tech treat, £12,345 in tax-free cash. Wouldn't be too bad to brighten up your Tuesday. Here's all the details you need to get involved.
There's still time to win our giveaway packed with seasonal essentials. First, there's an incredible £12,345 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash to make your bank account bloom. Plus a spring shopping spree with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. And finally, a garden gadget package including a handheld games console, a portable smart speaker and a pizza oven. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GB-WIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Excellent. Banksy, trash or treasure? We're debating that next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, I'm sure you have seen this video that went viral this week, and if you haven't, well, I think you're going to enjoy it. This is a firefighter leaning on a fence whilst watching a trapped driving instructor's car sink in 4 feet of floodwater. Looks very comfortable there, doesn't he? Just leaning against the fence.
Just chilling, just relaxing. Yeah, there were two. There were, in fact, 2 Essex fire and rescue crews, an ambulance and a police car parked near the sinking vehicle, but they wouldn't enter the water because they had to wait for specialist crews who were trained for the water depth.
Well, 2 people who weren't going to sit back and watch were these 2, Jack and Danielle Price, who took it upon themselves to rescue the submerged driver. And Danielle joins us now. Very good morning to you, Danielle, and you are a hero, an absolute hero. What happened in this video? Make sense of it for us.
So we were filming in the area for our YouTube channel, and we've seen the fire brigade come through. I was actually out at 5 o'clock in the morning with my husband, Jamie. We know it always happens there, as you can see, and it was clear. We've seen the fire brigade come through, we've followed them, and they're just standing around as if nothing's happened. In the clip, it says he's fine, he's on his phone, and then sort of walked away. But what they failed to realise is when my partner actually opened the door, as you can hear, he's on the phone to the sort of the emergency crew in panic, thinking he's going to sink. So we could not just sit there and watch. He's absolutely terrified.
Yeah, poor bloke. Well done you. Do you reckon this is health and safety gone mad?
It is, because although I do sympathise with them, they are so red-taped, but surely sort of common sense has to kick in as open the door.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Now, have a look at this. This house is in North London. has made the news after controversial street artist Banksy spray painted his latest artwork onto that wall. It's a sort of three-dimensional thing. The dead tree is in the foreground.
It's not dead, it's just not yet in leaf, Eamonn. That happens in winter.
What?
Won't it come back into flower when it leaf once the spring springs? I've got trees like that in my garden.
Never seen a tree like that.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I haven't. There's no branches on it. It's just
You know,
like
it might have been, you
trunks.
know, what's it called? Pollarded or something.
Well, it looks dead to me, but anyway, is it a work of art or is it a bit of vandalism going on there? I still don't see any growth on that tree, I'm sorry to say.
Sorry, that's a separate debate. Shouldn't have said anything. We've got the views this morning of the former Met detective Peter Bletzky. He thinks it's an act of vandalism that shouldn't go unpunished, whereas the comedian Diane Spencer says, chill out, this is graffiti and that is art. Let's start with you then, Diane. Put the case for Banksy's art/graffiti.
Well, you can have something that is two things. Two things can be true at the same time. It is both vandalism and it is art. And it's art even if you don't like it, because it's art that provokes thoughts and feelings. And I've been a fan of Banksy for quite a while. And the way that he uses his environment to draw people's attention to what's going on around the environment is really spectacular. I mean, here he's making a fantastic point about climate change. He's also making a point about the council, who have, quite rightly, as Eamonn's pointed out, lopped that tree to within an inch of its life. So he's sort of put the leaves back on. And
I'm not sure the tree is alive, because that sort of would defeat the whole purpose of the art, wouldn't it? I mean, if the tree bloomed, then the background is unnecessary. But Peter, from your point of view, if you woke up, if that was your gable wall, and you woke up, or indeed you were in one of the houses looking out on that wall, what would your reaction be?
I think I'd have been far happier if Banksy had rocked up at a cash-strapped community centre with a couple of tins of emulsion and contributed and volunteered there. I'm a fan of Banksy. I think he's elevated odious, ridiculous graffiti to an art form, but I think this probably signifies, sadly, a waning of his creative powers. And let's face it, this can happen with some creatives. I don't think there's a Rolling Stones fan that would argue that their latest album was as good as Exile on Main Street, for example.
What do you think should happen next?
I think it should be painted over so that the wall gets restored to some semblance of decent order. And whilst some might disagree, I really fail to see the art in this. I think it's a mess, and I don't think it's enhanced the community one little bit.
Well, we love you lots, Peter Bleksy, but lots of people would say you're not an art critic, you're not an expert in art, but you are obviously an expert in law and order. Diane says, if I woke up and found this on my property, it wouldn't be there long. I'd sue him or her for criminal damage. Would they have a leg to stand on legally? I mean, who does it belong to? The homeowner? Is it criminal damage? Could they sue if they wanted?
Oh, most certainly. If it's been done by anybody other than the owner of the property and without their consent, then it very much falls into criminal damage. And that is, of course, a crime for which people can be prosecuted. Of course, many works of Banksy have become treasured and revered and have sold for an awful lot of money. And I doubt very much whether the Metropolitan Police would want to pursue such a prosecution if indeed they could find the person responsible. But strictly speaking, within the law, yeah, it's criminal damage.
OK, Dan, so what is the way ahead then? What way do you see this playing out?
Well, I think a stumbling block is that it's not a very popular piece of Banksy's art. And so it means that a lot of people are now sort of saying, well, actually, because we don't like this particular one very much, maybe the whole thing should stop. But I think that's wrong. I think expressions of creativity, yes, and I fully admit that they are illegal, should not, and I'm not encouraging this behaviour in people, but at the end of the day, it's rebellion. I mean, isn't GB News a form of rebellion, just in a different way? Like, this channel didn't exist. You could argue that GB News is vandalism on the airwaves.
If we were art, we'd be graffiti. Is that what you're saying?
Hey?
If we were art, GB News would be graffiti. Is that what you're saying?
Of course it would. It would be people
Perish the
running around
thought.
spray painting their opinions.
I have to say, Eamonn, on this one, GB viewers are with me on the tree. This has been professionally pruned. It will get a superb growth next year. Chopping the top off the tree is normal coppicing. So there we go. It's not dead. Otherwise, it'd have been...
Well, I don't understand then why he undertook the art action then. What statement is he making? I mean,
just for winter, I suppose. Each winter, where the leaves go.
In my mind,
Yeah.
if he's making a statement, it's because the tree has died or been killed, and that's why he's doing what he's doing.
Well, Banksy has said that what he likes to do is create artwork that needs to be seen very quickly. It needs to be understood quickly. He imagines that the person watching it is driving past in a van. So that's why he does things to a massive scale. And I'm guessing this is about just trying to brighten up that area, trying to make that particular part of Finsbury Park look a lot or remind them that they need to put more plants, more flowers in.
Okay.
Maybe.
Guys, thanks for getting people thinking about that one. Diane and Peter, thank you. All I can say is they can have my share of it and Peter's share of it there as well. Paul, what do you think?
I played snooker against Damien Hirst once. I actually played snooker, and if only I'd said, when he was doing the scores, could you do me a little picture?
Yes.
I'd honestly be worth a fortune, but I only got a 5 in CSE art, and that was down to the fact that I didn't get on with the teacher. It's just that nobody understood what I was trying to do. It's kind of like, that's what it was. It was misunderstood. They just didn't understand what I was trying to create, and that's what art's all about.
I say to kids who talk about taking on art for O-level or A-level, it's so much more work than history homework or geography homework or whatever. It's a lot. People might think it's easier, but it's so much
it's a pleasure for people who are creative and are good at it.
When you
My
see
dad
people that
spends
can do
hours every day painting still.
Tell somebody on a Monday night at 8 o'clock when they've got a painting or landscape to do. I just say it's a lot of work, kids, if you're going to do it. Thank you. What's coming up in sport?
Well, there is little art in the shirts. The New England shirt has been revealed.
I think it's quite nice.
I think it's nice. You know what we'll do? We'll go through some of the old ones.
OK.
Some of the old ones as well, and also we'll talk about Nottingham Forest as well.
OK.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News.
Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So here we are, we're entering an international break this week. Paul's going to tell us who's playing what and what it involves.
Yeah, biggest game is probably for Wales, because Wales play Finland on Thursday, which is the playoff for the Euros. They've got to play 2 games, so they play Finland on Thursday, and if they get through that, which is being played in Cardiff, they will play then the winner of Poland or Estonia, and whoever wins that will then come to Cardiff next Tuesday. And then, should Wales win that, then they qualify for the Euros in the summer.
It's a bit of a journey, but
it really is.
Good luck to them.
Absolutely. Scotland, Netherlands on Friday, Northern Ireland Tuesday, England, Brazil on Saturday, and Belgium on Tuesday.
So, is the Belgium a real fixture? Or
No, friendlies.
2 friendlies.
Right. 2 friendlies, Euros coming up.
And they're going to unveil a new shirt for
What do
the
you think of the
Euros.
shirt? Shall we have a look at the shirt?
Let's have a look at the
This is the new England shirt. See, there was a day when you could have a football shirt that would last you for years, whereas these days it lasts you for a season. There we are. There's the
quite nice.
The great Harry Kane.
Looks the same as all the other ones.
There we are, and that's the away. That's the away kit. I think quite slovenly. They're setting those there. So we are. That's a very small chair as well. So there we are. That's the away kit, which I like. Don't you not like? I like the away kit as well.
The middle one was a bit slovenly, but I think that was just the stance.
I think it was
blue.
Yeah. Well, actually, they're trying to work out whether it is a blue or a little off-blue colour. But I thought we'd compare them to some of the shirts of the past, some of the great shirts. Look, right, we'll get one up there. Well, now, look at that. Now, what year is that, do you think?
66?
66. Well, there's slightly different. If you look closer, there's little holes in it, and the reason for that was because it was supposed to be cooler. It actually worked out hotter. Mexico 70. So that's the Mexico 70 shirt. Very nice, very simple. Well, just white, quite frankly. Let's go with another one. Right, what about that one?
Don't like that.
That was in the 90s.
Correct.
That's Beckham era, isn't it?
Right, absolutely on the money.
I could see him with his blonde frosted tips and his little...
Laying there, kicking out at an Argentinian. That's right, France 98.
98.
France 98, very good. So we don't like that one. On with the next one. Now, there's another legendary shirt from a legendary England game.
I remember Gareth Southgate wearing a shirt like that.
You are absolutely right.
So Italia 90?
No, think of Gareth Southgate missing a penalty. That was what you can see him walking away at Wembley.
92?
Euro 96.
Euro 96.
Euro 96, that was the shirt worn against Germany. I think we'll go with another one. I love all these shirts. Now, this is my favourite. This is my favourite. That was Admiral, so... Back when they came up with new shirts, because they're always playing, this was like revolutionary shirt. And this lasted for quite a few years as well.
The Admiral crown is as big as the England badge. On that, so it is.
But is it long sleeves?
It is long sleeve, yeah.
For a football match. Looks
you had a choice of when they sold it. And it was the first one that was on sale as well.
They always have a choice of long or short sleeve. Kevin Keegan.
Yep.
Is it?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Well, you had Beckham.
Well, I had a little bit of help.
Maybe 1980.
So you're going earlier. 75, that came in. 75, right through to around 82. Have we got time for one more?
One more.
One more. I love these. You know, because this sport, I'm all about fashion and sport. So what more can I say? That one, another iconic shirt.
España, were England out of España 82?
Yes.
They were. It's España 82.
Yeah. There was another team that did quite well at España 92.
Northern Ireland. Is that España 82?
That was Spain 82.
Oh, yes, Eamonn, well done.
There it is, the Keegan shirt from Spain 82.
I don't like that one.
You don't like that one?
Got strong feelings.
But you like the old style
I
one, like the retro.
I was always born in the wrong era.
Me too. I like that one as well. That was the first one I ever.
Nice. That was quite entertaining. That's more entertaining than you normally
Well,
are.
you know what I'll do tomorrow? If things go well, I'll do the shorts tomorrow.
That could be your specialism at the pub quiz, Eamonn.
Do you know the shorts? I have a picture of me in sporting gear.
Oh, no.
Oh, here we go.
But they are absolutely indecent. You didn't know at the time.
Smuggling tennis balls.
They were so snuggly.
Smuggling tennis balls?
No, but it was a tennis shoot. Oh, it sounds rude.
We save that only for tennis tournaments, that bit.
now?
You know, if I send this,
I've seen it. I've seen you smuggling tennis balls.
I feel another complaint coming.
If I send it to you, would you have this after the break, yeah?
Yes, we'll have it after the break. It was a tennis shoot, right? I haven't made that up. Anyway, whilst Eamonn finds out, we'll have a quick break and we'll be right back with that iconic photo to spare nobody's blushes in a moment.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel. Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
Our first question comes from Elliot. Elliot, hello.
Is Canada now an authoritarian state?
Elliot, I think it's been an authoritarian state for a while. I mean, under Trudeau, this is a new thing now, and this is coming from the Justice Minister, who has Arif Virani, and he has defended this new power for their online harms bill. That sounds familiar. We've got something quite similar. And they're saying they can now impose house arrest on someone who they think might commit a hate crime in the future, right? That's scary stuff, isn't it?
There's obviously a very dark side to this, because you can't, or in my opinion, you shouldn't be able to imprison somebody before they've done anything.
Right.
Well, it is Canada, and I know you in this country kind of respect Canada as a country. America didn't even know it was a country until recently, and I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to show themselves to be different than America.
I think America has a responsibility to invade. You know what? I do.
You know, you're kidding, but it may come down to this, or this may just be yeah, maybe.
Well, I just think it's ridiculous that the idea of arresting someone... I mean, our government's bad enough, and the Scottish government's out of control, the Irish government's out of control. They're all talking about... I mean, the Irish government's got a new hate crimes bill where they're talking about they can seize your phone if they suspect you might have some material that could potentially stir up hatred. I mean, for God's sake, what does that mean? Your phone's full of that kind of thing.
Well, the government knows that.
Yeah.
But you're right. But it has to do with the bigger picture, which is Canada has sucked itself in on the big team world. Sorry, I'm going to say it. It's big team world. And what they're doing, this is not even a free speech issue. This is just about silencing dissent against the Canadian government. It has nothing to do with openness and talk, whatever. It's like saying, we don't want these people to spread their opinions.
Dangerous opinions. That's what speech codes and hate speech laws always do.
Suzanne Holder and Alex Armstrong, and they've got stories from the papers that we think will be worth talking about. The electricity grid, Suzanne, first of all, a report is warning keeping the lights on while meeting green energy targets will need how much?
Well, 60 billion is going to be needed by 2035, according to the piece in the Daily Mail. Basically, it's about the fact that the electricity grid that we have in this country was obviously built when we had coal fires and on a very kind of old system. And the more we encourage people to go to electricity to save on fossil fuels, the more the grid needs to be updated. So what they're saying is there'll be a 65% increase in demand by 2035 that will need a huge investment. And an electrical spine reaching from Peterhead in North East Scotland to Merseyside to bring power down south from North Sea wind farms is what's going to be needed. So that's what it's all about in the article, really.
Such a lack of investment over the years. I mean, we had all these opportunities to build nuclear power plants, which are by far the best, and we just haven't done it, have we? And now we're having to open up gas plants, didn't we? That was the last announcement from last week to fill the gap.
Could we talk about opening up the new Bond role to someone, Alex? And,
yes.
This is an actor called Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Right. So you know what you might know him for? he famously...
You're a huge fan, aren't you, Isabel? I've heard this.
Older wife. Do you remember when the director of the 50 Shades of Grey films had a young boyfriend, really, really young, like half her age? It was in all the papers at the time. Well, it turns out that was him.
Oh, I know who that is then.
Star.
She also did the big Beatles movie, I think, didn't she?
There you go, yeah.
She did Backbeat. She was the director of Backbeat. So I know the director, but I don't know him so well.
Well, yeah, so he's actually relatively well known amongst the younger audience. I don't want to offend anybody. He's a 33-year-old man, but he broke his career, I think, in a film called Kick-Ass, which was... I watched it. Really great film.
Have we got a picture of this guy?
Yeah, we've got a photo. If not, I'll show you I've got him on the Sun here.
It's inside the Sun. Hold it up. There you go.
Where are we looking?
There you go.
There we go. Here he is. All right.
A big mantle to put on your shoulders, particularly because the role, I think, has been changed so much. And with
Do you think?
Oh, yeah, over the
definitely.
years.
You can't compare, what's his name? Who's the last Bond?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. You can't
to Roger.
compare,
But you can't compare Roger Moore to Sean Connery either.
No.
Everyone brings something new to it, don't
He's
they?
the guy on the left that we were looking at in those pictures.
Who's your favourite Bond?
Again? My favourite Bond is Pierce Brosnan, probably.
Same.
Really?
Oh, come on, yes.
Sean Connery, maybe
For the
Sean.
classics.
Yeah.
But I grew up with Pierce Brosnan. GoldenEye was my childhood film, and I remember playing all the games.
That's his older wife there.
See, I'm quite keen on Roger Moore. But maybe that's because I want something different from the movies. I quite like the kind of the ironic raise of the eyebrow and all that.
Well, interesting. This sort of puts to death all of those rumours that James Bond was going to be a woman, James Bond was going to be a black man. There was lots of different rumours going around of what they were going to do with his
Idris
role.
Elba would be good.
He hasn't signed yet. I mean,
He hasn't signed.
Done deal.
But insiders are saying it's a done deal. But
We've heard this before.
Oh, yeah,
it ain't done till it's done.
It's done till it's
As
done.
a feminist, I would say James Bond shouldn't be a woman.
I totally agree.
Because we need to have our own stories that we tell and our own heroes. We don't need to kind of go in on that. We just need to have a story that celebrates a woman, I think.
I agree.
Who was your favourite, Eamonn?
Well, I think they're all good. I think actually, when people talk about George Lazenby being rubbish, he's not. He was a model who became James Bond, and he actually does it very, very well. So I do think if you look at them all, there's not a bad one amongst them. But personally, I got to know Roger Moore, and an absolute gentleman and a man who was a star in every sense of the word, and a possibly handsome-looking man. But I think they're all good. I agree, Pierce. I think Pierce is very, very good, and Pierce again is a very likeable fella, very likeable. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, that the appetite, I think, for James Bond is still there, but they are reinventing it. And the fact that they change it and kind of go with the time. I thought Daniel Craig was very good, actually.
Superb.
I did enjoy those movies.
Superb. I mean, he redefined...
I'm not a James Bond expert. I don't think I've seen them all.
But
you can't
I just struggled with Daniel Craig the most because I just couldn't cope with blonde Bond. So the idea of a female Bond or, you know... I
anything
couldn't
else,
cope with Daniel Craig. So can we talk about X-rated singers?
Yes.
The Bananarama Star has come out saying these youngsters taking all their clothes off and twerking or whatever else it is actually...
Well, for anyone who remembers Bananarama, so it's Karen Woodward who's the one who said it, but anyone who remembers Bananarama, they were, I mean, I would say they were a very sexy kind of girl band of their day, but they wore, and the picture they've got here in the Daily Mail piece, they're wearing jeans and T-shirts and kind of, they look a bit scruffy, actually got the hair all messed up. They used to kind of tie things in their hair. It was, I mean, Madonna was of that look at the time. I remember as a young girl and a woman looking at those people. Yeah, you could easily kind of put those outfits on. Would any of us go around dressed like Miley Cyrus is in the picture? Have you seen this picture? Do you need to see that picture?
Well, don't tempt me. I'm going out on Saturday night.
If you're looking for an outfit, it's a look. Now, that is a it's a decent picture of Miley Cyrus in as much as she's covered up all necessary bits. But the point that Karen's making is singers today, young female singers, wear a lot of kind of revealing clothing or not much clothing. You watch something like the Brits and I was thinking, why are they just in their pants? Why have they forgotten their skirt? And I don't think that's my age. I do think that is something that I worry about as having a 13-year-old... I've got a 13-year-old granddaughter, my stepdaughter's daughter. She's about to turn 13. She's a big Taylor Swift fan. And I don't want her to think that to get on in life, you do have to run around with your skirt off.
Well,
I mean, Madonna did the same with
the thing about clothes and not wearing many clothes and things, it can work for anybody and everybody, as you can see here. There we are. Yes, Alex, the point we were making was football outfits. We were talking about how tight, how at some stage in life shorts got very, very tight. And that, I think the year there was about 1980, 81, something like that.
That speaks very much to the point. If you've got it, flaunt it, is what that picture is saying, isn't it?
I could have had an alternative career as a model there, Eamonn.
And I could show you on this. It's disappeared now, sorry. But that developed into a cardboard cutout. You can see in this one. And so I went to... So a girl sent me this picture. Are we going to see this picture? We're going to see it? No, right. So this is the second one. So
OK.
you can get a cutout for your party. Your
lovely, lovely.
Party.
Oh, fabulous.
Girl sent me that there.
Just keep that next to your bed, wherever.
Yeah. So that is it. How long have we got left? 1:30 left there.
Let's talk about Nigel Farage, Suzanne. He's done a big interview with Donald Trump, which is airing on the channel tonight. Bound to make headlines. It's an exclusive.
The thing is, do you do an interview with Donald Trump, or does he just talk?
Well, that's it. Well, it's interesting. You see, it's a great coup, obviously, for Farage and for GB News, but. I hope he's asked some kind of searching questions, and I hope he's got some interesting answers. It sounds like he might have kind of covered some really interesting areas. We're going to hear what he thinks about NATO, apparently. We're going to hear what he thinks about the fact that he used that word bloodbath, whichever context you put it in, it's something that he needs to kind of answer why he was using kind of words like that. He says he was talking about the automobile industry, but obviously, is it a good idea that Trump is kind of using those kind of things? Apparently, they're going to ask him about his attitude about Harry and Meghan as well. So that's all going to be very interesting.
Few headlines there. 7 o'clock on GB News tonight. Suzanne and Alex, thank you both very much indeed. A joy to listen to both of you there. Right, we've got half an hour of the programme to go.
And it is scorchio in here. Will it be hot outside today? Alex Deakin, how's your forecast?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland with all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain. Won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's still time to win our giveaway packed with seasonal essentials. First, there's an incredible £12,345 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash to make your bank account bloom. Plus a spring shopping spree with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. And finally, a garden gadget package, including a handheld games console, a portable smart speaker and a pizza oven. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 £245 in tax-free cash, text GB-WIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Mark Dolan Tonight. Weekends from 9 p.m.
I've personally been very torn on whether Prince Harry should have full police protection when he's in the United Kingdom. On the one hand, why should taxpayers fork out for somebody that's left the country and the institution? He is no longer a working, serving royal. But I don't think it matters. He is one of the most famous men in the world, and whether he's a royal or not, he is an ambassador for this country. And he still does good. Charitable causes, the Invictus Games, and he is still a nice and charming guy with a heart. And whilst he has left the royal family and departed these shores, he was and remains the son of King Charles. That is a biological fact. Well, let's hope so. And it wasn't his choice to be born into royalty. It wasn't his choice to be the son of the king. And for that reason, I think he should have equal police protection to his brother William when he is in this country. He couldn't be a more high-profile figure, and unfortunately, like all the royals, Harry will be a target for some very bad people. I fear that if, God forbid, anything happened to him or his family, the authorities would have blood on their hands. So, it's not often that I back Prince Harry, but on this one, he has my support. Look what happened to his poor mum, killed in a Paris tunnel in the 1990s with an allegedly drunk chauffeur. A top royal security insider recently told me that Diana would still be with us today if she had had top royal protection at that time. So let's not make the same mistake twice. Prince Harry needs full protection and the best we've got. Yes, he might be a numpty, but he's our numpty.
A very good morning to you. It is 9 o'clock on the dot on Tuesday, the 19th of March. You're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Very nice to have you on board. Headlines this morning, the stories we'll be talking about in the next half hour. A royal relief. Photos and video have emerged of the Princess of Wales out and about over the weekend.
The Prime Minister's poised for a fresh battle with the House of Lords over his Rwanda bill after a victory in the Commons overnight.
We want to see people not making that crossing, and we do think that this bill will be a significant deterrent for people who would otherwise cross the channel.
Drayford is the Welsh First Minister until this afternoon. He will officially resign today. His replacement, Vaughan Gething, gearing up to take over.
Another fairly mild day today. There is some rain around at the moment, but most of us will have a brightening up kind of day. Join me later for a full forecast.
Well, it's been a testing few weeks for the royal family, with the Princess of Wales's continued absence following surgery in January, causing social media to go wild.
OK, but there was relief over the weekend after the Prince and Princess were spotted. We've been talking about this picture all day. This is a farm shop in Windsor on the estate, the Windsor estate. Now the Sun has published the pictures of the royal couple with the Princess of Wales. She's smiling in these pictures. She looks happy as they went about their business.
And I'm actually told that the gates to Adelaide Cottage, where they live, their private entrance, is right next to the farm shop. It couldn't be any closer for her to visit, but great to see her out and about. Let's get the thoughts this morning of our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. He's in Sheffield today, where we're expecting to see the Prince of Wales. Do you think he'll be asked questions about this? Do you think this has drawn a line under it and the matter's closed?
Yeah, I think from Prince William's perspective, he'll very much want to focus on his work rather than new images of the Princess of Wales. But of course, it is the picture that everyone's talking about this morning. And on the one hand, it will be a welcome relief for members of the public that we do see the Princess of Wales looking smiling and well. She's carrying a shopping bag despite the fact she's had pretty major surgery, and hopefully it's going to end months and months of speculation. But of course we need to be mindful of the fact that the Princess of Wales has asked for and still wants to recover in private until such time where she is back on public engagements, which we're told will be after Easter. And you're right, Isabel, there is apparently, according to the member of the public who took this footage, a gate leading into the private Windsor estates where Adelaide Cottage is, just next to Windsor Farm Shop. But as I said, Prince William will be focusing on his work today. He is in Sheffield, visiting one of the 6 pilot locations he hopes can prove homelessness can be ended over a 5-year period. It's his project Homewards, which he launched last year with his Royal Foundation. A royal source told me last night that Prince William has been keeping a very close eye on the progress made in Sheffield over the last few months. And today he's going to be meeting families who have been very much at risk of homelessness, as well as landlords. And all of this comes as this morning a new £1 million pledge has been offered by the DIY retailer Homebase with the Royal Foundation to provide 1,500 home starter packs. So that's things like paint, furniture, flooring, all your DIY needs to turn buildings into proper homes for people at risk of homelessness. Now, those 1,500 starter packs are going to be spread out across the country in these 6 flagship locations, as well as a plot of land on the Duchy of Cornwall land, which Prince William owns, of course. And it's all about his drive to try and end homelessness in this country. It's something which he's really been inspired by to do with Princess Diana by his mother, who took him to homeless shelters when Prince William was a child. 4,000 families or people are at risk of homelessness or applied to Sheffield Council to register as homeless. It's the highest figure so far of all the records they have, 500 up from last year. And Prince William is really going to be wanting to see what progress has been made in Sheffield over the last few months and looking into the years ahead.
Cameron, thank you. We look forward to seeing those pictures of the Prince of Wales a little bit later on. Another busy day for you. Thanks very much. Eamonn, people have been really good getting in touch on this topic this morning. Mike saying, have the media learnt nothing from the hounding of Diana? They hounded her in her private life until she died and then still carried on with reports after it. That's my opinion this morning. And Chris has got in touch and said, I've just read the passage in Spare that Prince Harry saw the pictures of his dead mother taken by the press. Now we have the press showing pictures of the princess recovering from illness. I'm disgusted. Leave her alone. And Jason saying, I wish this country could just leave these people alone. It's completely ridiculous. This country loves our royal family and they are surely allowed privacy in illness.
Nigel Farage is in Florida, where he's interviewed former President Donald Trump. It's at 7 o'clock tonight. It is on GB News. It is no holds barred.
If they know something about the drugs and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action.
OK, let's get out of here. I got to go back to work.
Join me tonight at 7 o'clock on GB News. The full interview with Donald J. Trump, and he makes it absolutely clear. He's running. He believes that he is going to win. This is an interview you will not want to miss. Britain's questions answered tonight exclusively on GB News at 7 o'clock. Join me.
Watching that one should be quite interesting. It's also just interesting to see Trump sees himself. I don't think he's ever seen himself as not being president. You know, he just sort of continues, and he assumes he's going to get it
Well,
again.
you retain the title, don't you, in America? Once you've been president, you're president for life, and he's very presidential, certainly in that sort of gold ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. We know he loves gold, but that was sort of very regal looking, wasn't it? Let's get the thoughts from Aubrey Allegretti, chief political correspondent for us this morning at The Times. He's been listening to that as well and will give us his take on that and the rest of the politics of the day. Good morning to you. He was talking about Prince Harry in reference to the drugs in that clip that we heard there. It'd be very interesting to hear his views on that, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. There's been a row brewing in the US for some time, effectively over what Prince Harry disclosed in terms of his history of having used drugs before and whether that might have an impact on his suitability or the validity of his residency in the United States. So there's been a bit of a row between sort of parts of the US media over that. Joe Biden's administration basically saying that they don't want to look into this case, and they don't think they need to or provide any more details or give over the form that Prince Harry filled in. But it's certainly an issue that will be looked at again in light of the comments by Donald Trump.
About these bloodbath comments in relation to if he loses the election in November, you know, the sort of thing that makes us all put our heads in our hands here thinking, what's he said now? We expect him to distance himself from those words, saying something along the lines of, I was taken out of context. Is that what you think we'll be hearing?
I suspect that Donald Trump will try and say specifically that he was talking about the economy and the impact on the automotive sector if he isn't installed as president. Obviously, Donald Trump was saying that he thought that there should be a 100% tariff on cars imported to the into the US. And so contrasting that with Joe Biden suggesting that the US president wasn't best placed to handle the economy. But obviously, politicians, as we know all too well in this country, from having seen 2 MPs murdered, and as the US knows full well from the January 6th insurrection riots, there is a responsibility on politicians to sort of be mindful of their language. And I suspect that people will be looking to Donald Trump to try and take the heat out of this debate, clarify his comments, and send a direct message to his supporters that if he doesn't win the US presidency later this year, like he didn't in 2020, then they should not be inciting any violence whatsoever.
Be said in that interview, though, is it, Aubrey? That's not his style, is it? He's not going to sit there and go, guys, if I lose. I mean, that's, as far as he's concerned, that's not an option. He's going to win. It's all great. He's going to make America good again, great again. But he's not going to sit there and urge caution and be, you know, wringing his hands in the way that perhaps us and the British media would expect him to. That's just not Trumpian.
It might not be. And I've seen already Joe Biden's attack adverts sort of out in full force, suggesting that re-electing Donald Trump would be reckless, that it would be potentially damaging and dangerous for US democracy. And certainly countries around the world are watching, probably fearful of what a Trump administration might mean for them. So particularly in the UK, there's been repeated threats that Donald Trump has made about funding to NATO. That would have significant consequences for the UK and its allies, particularly given the war in Ukraine. So I suspect people will be hoping for that reassuring message. But as you say, they might not get it.
Thank you very much indeed. Aubrey is the chief political correspondent for The Times. And from 9:30, we've got Andrew and Bev. Big interview, that, Andrew, to look forward to. 7 o'clock tonight here on GB News.
Agenda setting.
Yeah.
The man who the polls suggest is going to be the next president of the United States.
It's so hot in the can that they're literally editing it in the office behind us. Yeah. So we're hoping that in the second hour of our show we can show you some clips of that. But we're going to read you some of the interview if that isn't done.
And he's talked a lot about Prince Harry, apparently. He's also talked about NATO. Is he going to support NATO? I hope so.
Yes.
Bring us up to date with the latest on the royal pictures and what we're seeing today in the Sun. You know, people do get all
and the front of the Mail,
hot and bothered about this, but I mean, this is here by their grace, surely.
They're completely happy. This photograph is out, the video's out showing that she's okay. She's looking very thin, but she has had major surgery. The palace are more than happy. If they didn't want this out, they would never have been at that shop in the first place. Interesting that the photograph wasn't taken in the shop, taken outside the shop, public place. We're talking to a senior media lawyer about it. It says they've breached no rules. This is completely legitimate use of a photograph.
Is that going to do enough now? I mean, can we draw a line under it? Because, I mean, just look at the GB News inbox and everybody's saying, enough now, just let her be sick and let her get well.
There are two worlds with this story, aren't there? There are those people, quite clear distinction between those people who are saying, you know what, she's a 42-year-old mother of 3, she's clearly had abdominal surgery and she does want to recover in private. And there are those who are the super sceptics online who are just saying it still isn't her. I think this is her. I have no doubt this is her.
Well, there's the third element to all of this, which is in the Telegraph today, which is another another news agency has called another picture that has been formally issued by the palace as manipulated, of being edited at source.
It had about 14 of the Queen's grandchildren in it, and I remember thinking at the time, how on earth did they get them all looking at the camera at the same time?
Not when one of them was Louis. You can't get them all to be
Don't
looking
pick
at
on my Louis. I love him so much.
I love him. He's
But the
great
difference
fun.
with that photograph, there was no attempt with that photograph to say to the wider public, the Princess of Wales is fit and healthy, because that's what the Mother's Day photograph was about, really. Trying to tell us that she was fit and healthy, and it backfired.
She has a very distinctive walk, the Princess of Wales. She has a very distinctive walk, and I saw the moving footage and I thought, yeah, that's definitely her. Great that she's OK.
Yeah. Speaking of looking fit and healthy, I can't resist, Bev. Sorry, I really enjoyed reading in the Daily Mail yesterday about your younger man and seeing you both quite scantily clad in there as well. I mean, hats off to you, girl.
Just to be clear, this wasn't a photo shoot. There was a picture from our holiday where we happened to have bikinis on the beach. Yeah, it was nice. I did an interview with with the Mail. Thank you. It's, you know, let people know that this channel is here, that our programme exists. And yeah, I'm happy. So I was very happy to talk about it. But talking of age gap relationships.
Yes.
She says, segueing on, so she's not talking about
Who's
herself.
ever heard of him? Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Well, the only reason I've even heard of him is because of his older wife.
23-year age gap, and the Sun is saying
This is James
authoritatively he's going to be James Bond. So we're talking to the head of the British James Bond fan club to say what they think.
They met.
I have to say, I didn't really know who he was.
I had no idea who he was.
50 Shades of Grey.
Well, they met when he was 18 and she was 42. That makes me look like an amateur.
It's like the Macrons.
I'm not quite 42, but I've got time yet, right? My next husband.
Never say never, Isabel. That's what I
It's
say.
like President Macron. I mean, he met his wife when he was a 15-year-old schoolboy.
Yeah.
Not much difference between
No,
these two.
they've got two children together as well. Good luck to them, absolutely.
Big mantle. How old is he now?
33.
Oh, right, yeah.
And she's 57.
Yeah.
But he'll be doing that for a decade, won't he?
And I'm glad we've got a new James Bond, because I was bored rigid with Daniel Craig. He'd made James Bond dull
he
and
wasn't
worthy.
he wasn't for me.
I'm surprised that James Bond is a white man.
Yeah.
All of the speculation
And not a woman.
that it was going to be a woman, that it would be somebody
Idris
of
Elba.
colour, and you know that they couldn't possibly keep it traditional. The character
It's not
is a
done
white
yet.
man.
They've not signed the deal yet.
I think
but
it will be.
The Sun have had a heck of a week for scoops, haven't they?
Yeah.
They'd have put, if they hadn't had the Catherine video, they'd have put that on their front page.
Guys, see you at 9:30. Thank you very much indeed. Right now, a great British giveaway. Have a go.
Time is ticking on your chance to win the Great British Giveaway. There's a massive £12,345 in tax-free cash to spend however you like, along with £500 in shopping vouchers for your favourite store, a games console, a pizza oven and a portable Sonos smart speaker. And the best news? You could be our next big winner, just like Phil.
Didn't quite believe it and still can't. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats, and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed.
Still to come, we'll be taking a look at British heritage and why it has some great things to steal after this.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
get this right. We all know by now, don't we, that so many NHS workers are abused by people that they're trying to help. We'll all agree that that is pretty damn disgraceful. But what do we do about it? Because now some London hospitals are looking at whether or not they should be able to ban people that do this for a year from those hospital facilities. Is that the way forward? Daniel, do you like this? No abuse, no excuse. That is the campaign?
There's no other choice for most people. It's either the NHS or nothing. And if you're going to take that monopolistic power, then you need, I think, you have responsibilities towards people. You can't cut them off. So there are ways in which, of course, you can bring criminal charges against them. If they committed a criminal offence, that's fine. They might even be locked up in jail. But what you can't do is cut off health services because you're the only supplier.
Well, yes, I think you can cut it off, and you should cut it off. London is very different from everywhere else, and it goes back to a conversation about immigration. The majority of nurses in London are either African or Filipino, and it harks back to their nature and their culture. When you're younger, your parents look after you. When you're older, you look after them. They don't go into homes. So there's a way that a threshold of tolerance they have that is above and beyond most people. So, because I found like when I was younger, most of the nurses were white. Now they work in hospitals in Ascot and Somerset. London is the war zone. I have seen horrific things happen to nurses, and they stay. They show up for work. There's a protection they are owed, beyond owed. And if you abuse something that's offered to you as a part of your citizenship, there should be a penality for that. For the same reason,
you're obliged to use it. There's no offer involved in the NHS.
But there is an offer, because at the end of the day, like you earn it, you figure out how to get money and go private. So just because you've created something that gives you no, it's easy. If it's
that's
easy,
an impossible solution.
They've created something that's kind and easy and beneficial to all, indeed. But it's a good thing for all. Do not abuse it. That simple.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
You're very good getting in touch with us today. There is an artwork, a piece of artwork reckoned to be a Banksy, which has appeared in London. We'll probably just have some pictures of it here, which may help you envisage what it is. But basically, it's a lot of leaves on a white gable wall and a dead tree in the foreground. And Anne says, I think that the painting represents greenwashing, especially as the person who painted it used a jet wash. Ronald says, what becomes of this so-called artwork on the house in Finsbury Park if the tree is removed or dies? And that's a very
let's hope the tree is not removed. And that would be awful.
Diane says, if I woke up and find this in my property, it wouldn't be there long, and I would sue him or her, whoever created it, for criminal damage. Banksy doesn't exist, in my opinion. It's more than one person damaging property. That's the thing about artwork, you know, it's all beauty is in the eye of the beholder, exactly. I suppose, with that sort of thing. So we're talking about things that are very beautiful, and these are contained within famous landmarks around England. And Historic England, the organisation, has done a survey, and they have found what?
Well, they found an increase in the number of thefts from heritage sites across the country. And these criminals have been targeting valuable materials such as York stone and lead from these sites and then selling them for cash.
Well, think of the damage that can do and the ruination of a lot of these buildings or monuments it causes. And as you will see from this report from Sophie Reaper, even things like pathways, practical things, and roofing and lead that keeps the rain out of things like churches. Sophie visited a church in Cheshire, and she'll show you more of these thefts.
Established during the Saxon era, St Mary's Church in Congleton, Cheshire, has been at the heart of its community for hundreds of years. But despite its deep historic and religious roots, it's become just one of many sites to be targeted by criminals. 2 years ago, 3 men were arrested and found guilty of stealing over £100,000 worth of York stone from 8 different sites, including here at St Mary's.
This church was directly affected when, in 2022, we had the stone path that leads up to it, the York stone, stolen. And when we talk about this kind of crime, and some people might wonder why we, invest so much time and money in heritage crime, it's because it's a crime against every single one of us when it happens.
Once the culprits were caught, the stone was then recovered and replaced, restoring the damaged path. Now, Cheshire's rural crime team want people to know they're cracking down hard on this kind of offence.
So really important that people understand that we will go out of our way to go after people that are responsible for this sort of crime. We're looking at soil analysis, we're looking at the botany of any kind of plant or material that's on it as well, and we're linking that back to people's cars, their houses, and various other bits as well, which is getting us really solid convictions.
But this isn't just a localised issue. Up and down the country, historic heritage sites are seeing more and more incidents of valuable materials being stolen and pawned off to the highest bidder. But what is it about these sites that has suddenly made them such an interesting target for potential thieves?
In many cases, they just see it as a commodity. They don't see the historical linkage at all. So if they're turning up to take the lead from a church, they're not going, oh, crikey, that's an old church, I'll leave it alone. They just see that with pound note signs on it.
New research suggests that the cost of living may well be affecting the number of incidents of this nature as people choose to break the law in order to make extra money. But to historic England, the value of our heritage is priceless.
You can imagine how many footsteps have been taken on those paths over the years. Weddings, funerals, christenings, people turning up for worship. How do you put a value on that?
As work now continues across the country to protect our heritage sites, the message from their guardians is clear. Thieves, beware. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
But you think of the people who are driven to steal like that or want to steal like that. Somebody somewhere has said to them, oi, nick that for me and it's worth it for you. And they do, because they've got nothing else in life and it's an easy opportunity for them.
Got no morals. I love the idea of just walking in the footsteps of history. When you go to these places, you're walking in the history footsteps of previous kings, or as he was saying there, people who've got married, people who've been buried there. It's real life history when you go to these sites. They should be treasured, they should be protected, and it's a real shame to see them targeted in this way.
It is. It is sad for everybody involved, including the thieves, I have to say. Your views very welcome, and your views will be very welcome tomorrow when we're back again to do it all over again from 6 o'clock. We hope we see you then. It's Andrew and Bev up next.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Bit of rain around this morning first thing, but most of us will have a kind of brightening up sort of day with some bright or sunny spells later and not too much rain by this afternoon. Even this morning, the rain is fairly well scattered, but some pretty heavy showers across northern Scotland with a gusty wind and a smattering of showers over parts of England and Wales, particularly the Midlands, northeast England. We'll see a few more of those through the afternoon, but I'm hopeful for something a bit brighter for Wales, western Scotland, and even further south there'll be some bright spells which could see temperatures get to 16, 17, maybe 18 Celsius, so that's pretty mild for the time of year. Feeling colder with a stiff wind over the far north of Scotland. That'll ease a little as we go through the nights, and then more rain comes into Wales and southwest England. So things turning damp here through the evening. That rain will spread into the Midlands and Northern Ireland as we go through the night, and eventually into southern Scotland. With all the cloud and the outbreaks of mostly light rain, won't be a cold night. Temperatures in the south staying in double figures in some towns and cities. A dull, dank, drizzly start then for Wednesday morning, certainly over the Midlands, North Wales, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. Most of the south, again, largely dry, and much of northern Scotland having a fine day on Wednesday. Some decent spells of sunshine for the Highlands, brightening up too across Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, the rain will tend to ease, but many places will stay fairly cloudy tomorrow. A cooler day as a result, but still pretty mild in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning.
We're talking about that video of Kate, the Princess of Wales at the Windsor shop. I thought there'd be something 24 hours after we've heard about it, but they're right to publish it. I think they were.
Also, the shocking number of dentists who think that the government's plan to fix your teeth is not going to work. And talking of holes, potholes. We've got an 8-year backlog. We've got more potholes now than we had 8 years ago. That's what I'm trying to say. We'll have worked it out by the time we talk about it.
Show us the ones near you. We'd like to see them. Send your pictures in. GB News, gbnews.com.